Hello and welcome to this Friday night edition of the Niall Fraser Show. And tonight we're going to be covering the Reform Civil War. Rupert Lowe incredibly has been suspended from the party, and there'll be mass fallout because of this fact. So we'll start the show with how we always start it, with our intro music, but that's what it's a one-issue show tonight. We're going to be covering Rupert Lowe's suspension from Reform and what it means for Reform and, where they go in the future. But first of all, let's kick it off. Let's get this night rocking with our intro music. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're having a fantastic Friday evening, and welcome to the Niall Fraser Show. And tonight we are talking about the Reform Civil War. What does it mean for Reform? Where does Reform go from here? Because a lot of people were looking to Rupert Lowe. One is challenging leadership, but two, he's connecting to the British public on such a fantastic level. And now that he's been suspended, I don't know where Reform goes for here. And we'll be looking at the tweets back and forth. But we seem to have a a war of statements being issued. So we'll be looking into them all, and we'll be sort of talking about. I mean, tell me in the comments, where the hell did Reform go for here? Where do they go? Does the chairman go? I mean, this is. I honestly think they've made such a miscalculation in suspending Rupert Lowe. We've got the first comment of the night. Good evening to yourself, Scorpion. It's just there's, you know, me, myself, and I. You know, there's what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen to Reform here, but I think this is a sort of cataclysmic event for Reform, and it's a sort of watershed moment for Reform. At first, they came for Ben Habib, and nobody said anything. And now they've come for Rupert Lowe. So I don't really know where they actually go for here, but let's read the statement first. Give me a second, guys. I'm being tardy. There's so many posts about Rupert Lowe tonight. I mean, it's trending like wildfire. There's so many things. You know, here's the statement from Reform. So we'll bring this up. We'll read the statement, and then we'll talk about, you know, the response. I just don't. I don't understand it. They're saying that he's been bullying, he's been abusive to women. But I mean, this is we always get this, and it just you know, it's the timing of it. We'll talk about the timing of it, right? First, we'll go through the sort of series of events, right? Yesterday, Rupert Lowe, Farage acts like a messiah. The MP warns leader he will not be by his side at the next election unless party's governance is overhauled. And this has been a common criticism about Reform, where it seems to be ruled by like an iron fist, like Farage is the dictator. What he says goes, and that's it. What his word is final. But Reform is getting too big to be just one person. Reform's beyond Nigel Farage at this point. Reform seemed to have been it's crazy. Reform seemed to have been the breakout party, the sort of party that could break apart this uniparty hold, this doom spiral that Britain's in, this trading of power between Labour and the Tories back and forth, while our country gets flooded with immigrants, our country gets destroyed, our society just crumbles away, our economic opportunities are being sold off to other countries, our economic sort of stability is at stake here. Our country is being absolutely, it's been cratered by this mass immigration. And, you know, I'll tell you a wee personal anecdote before we go on, but I made a video specifically for Reform, and I included them in it. You know, I make statements for myself, what I believe, what I think. But I thought, really, Reform have to be the only sort of outlet for Britain at this moment to break the mold, to break the chains of this doom spiral, this trading back of power between the Tory and Labour Tory. Meanwhile, Britain just goes down the tubes. Here we got Thomas Ingram. What's Thomas Ingram saying tonight? I hope you're having a great evening, Thomas. They've lost all credibility. No different to the SNP. They have a leader who thinks he's the dog's bollocks and no one is allowed to steal the limelight. And this is going to be a common sentiment. This is going to be a common sentiment. And Jay, again, people are going to be saying things like this. If I was independent, I would say it was MI5 PSYOP. And believe you me, people will be saying things like this because who does this truly benefit? Who stands? You know, cui bono? Who stands to benefit from Reform's downfall? Well, it's the establishment parties, isn't it? It's Labour. It's the Tories. The Tories have been going down and down and down. The defections have been coming thick and fast from the Tories to Reform, which, I mean, there's criticism on that as well. I mean, we don't want Reform to become the Tory Party 2.0. We want mass deportations. As soon as they get into power, as soon as this Reform Party got into power, people wanted to see deportations. They wanted to see the planes already fueled up, ready to go. That's what people wanted to see. Our country is irrecognisable. I mean, just the other day we've got an asylum seeker tried in Edinburgh High Court for raping an underager in Falkirk. Why is this asylum seeker walking about Falkirk? Why? We need instant action on this. Instant action. And this is what people are they're crying out for this. Believe you me, they're crying out for it. The Americans wanted that too, but it's not happening though, is it? No, I mean, Matthew, I tend to agree with you. I mean, it started off with a flurry of deportations, didn't it? But then they've sort of dried up. They've dried up. So there seems to be a sort of almost like a resignation to the fact that they're not going to be able to handle the problem. That's what it feels like. But we'll go back to Thomas's comment. They've lost all credibility. This is what it feels like. You know, and the timing of this is just so utterly brutal, isn't it? You know, it didn't even crack 1,200 a day. And you know, we're talking about the level of deportations here. They should be hitting 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 per day, Matthew. If they really wanted to curb this problem, they should be hitting. They could even be hitting 5 figures on this to make it work, because otherwise it'll take 20 years to get them all out. There seems to be a sort of resignation that we're not going to be able to do anything about these asylum seekers, about these illegal migrants. And it's not just the illegal migrants. It's, you know, our country is irrecognisable. I mean, how long will it be before Britain's getting renamed? We'll take the great off it. But this is, we'll talk about the timing here, right? Rupert Lowe in the Telegraph. The MP warns the leader will not be by his side for the next election. This is yesterday, by the way. And it takes some minutes to construct an attack on Rupert, and boom. And apparently these allegations were made months ago. But now they use, now they time it to come out. And it's shocking. But we'll share this tab instead. We'll look at Reform's statement here. And you know, for the life of me, I just don't know. We'll get me out of the way so we can read it. Statement from Reform, March the 7th, today, ladies and gentlemen. It is with regret that we feel obligated to disclose that the party received complaints from 2 female employees about serious bullying in the offices of the Member of Parliament for Great Yarmouth, Rupert Lowe. One worked in his parliamentary office, the other in his constituency office. We understand complaints have been made to the parliamentary authorities. Evidence was provided to us of workplace bullying. Where's the evidence then? Where's the evidence? This is what everyone's saying. Where the fuck's the evidence? The targeting of female staff who raise concerns and evidence of derogatory and discriminatory remarks made about women, including reference to a perceived disability. So they're really laying it on thick here. And Rupert denies all this. Rupert denies all this as well. And we're going to come on to that as well, nationalists. Reform employed a King's Counsel to investigate Rupert. Exactly. What they're spending members' money on employing a KC to come in and investigate Rupert. It's beyond a joke. It really is beyond a joke. And I can't believe Lee Anderson's put his name to this as well. I can't understand it. Zia Youssef, he's, again, we'll go back to my anecdote My anecdote. If you look on my YouTube channel, there's a video that's called The Battle of Dunbar, where I talk about we need an assault on the ballot box. It doesn't matter if we're outnumbered. People will still fight outnumbered, and we can still win. And yet, at the end of it, I'm calling for mass deportations from John O'Groats to Land's End. That's what I called for. And the minute it's out, ladies and gentlemen, the minute it's out, I get a call. I get a phone call. Take that video down. Take the Reform logo off that video, Niall. And what does it tell me? Well, one, I was actually really quite upset about it, because it told me that Reform weren't serious about deportations at all. Reform were not serious about changing Britain for the better. And this is just, I mean, where did it go for here? We'll finish the statement, and then we'll go to Rupert's response. So again, they're laying it on really thick here. He made discriminatory remarks made about women, including reference to perceived disability. We feel we have a duty of care to all our staff, whether employed directly or indirectly. Accordingly, we appointed an independent King's Counsel to conduct an investigation. So, you know, you have a workplace spat, somebody accuses you of something. Oh, let's get the KC involved. What is this? What is this? Jay, we're getting a decent amount of comments in. Can I ask you an honest question? Of course you can, Jay. I believe in the union, but if we can't stop illegal immigration or the shite that's happening in Westminster, I'm thinking of right-wing independent Scotland. You're not even wrong to think that, Jay. Like, the thing is, I just don't want to leave behind our brothers and sisters in England and Wales and Northern Ireland. We can't. We actually, I mean, this is the thing. Either we all win or we all lose. We all win or we all lose, Jay. That's the thing. And, you know, when we talk about the SNP up here, the Scottish Nationalist Party, they're no nationalists. They want to replace you. They want to replace you with migrants from Africa, from the Middle East. They don't want Scots. In fact, they bring in people, they import people from all over the world and just proclaim them Scottish. The Scottish Nationalist Party, they're not even nationalists. They want to replace you. They're on board with the mass immigration sentiment. They are on board with that. The whole thing's a fucking scandal. So do Reform. They just want to do it legally. We can just do things, Matthew. You know what I mean? We can just disregard the ECHR. Just send them back to France. Send them back. I'm the same as you. Thanks, Jay. I mean, it's one of these issues that a lot of people see. I mean, and I bet you, see the hardcore Scottish nationalists, they'll be thinking the exact same as you, Jay. They'll be thinking, I don't want my country diluted. I don't want my country swamped by migrants from all corners of the globe and called Scottish. No wonder they're seeking to do another party with Alba, because they are not nationalists at all. And see if they got independence. If the SNP got independence, they've already signed us up. I mean, they are on this economic train, this fake growth train. They say, oh, we're all going to suffer. We're all going to suffer economically if we don't import migrants from all over the world, which is a lot of shite. And for what aim? What, to grow the economy by 0.5%, by 0.25%? When your council tax is going up 15% in Falkirk, I think. 15.6% in Falkirk. And the councillors themselves are giving themselves 40% plus pay rises across the board. I've even seen pay rises as high as 56% pay rises for councillors. But they want to impose more costs on you in the most desperate economic time that Britain has ever faced. We will get to the end of this letter. Accordingly, we've appointed the Independent King's Council to conduct an investigation into the veracity of these complaints. To date, Mr. Lowe has yet to cooperate with the investigation. I think that's a lie as well. In addition to these allegations of a disturbing pattern of behaviour. So again, they're laying it on thick here. They're saying that Rupert Lowe's a bad guy. It's a pattern of behaviour. Mr. Lowe, on at least 2 occasions, made threats of physical violence against our party chairman. So Rupert Lowe, I think he's 67, an old guy. And yet Zia Yusuf is afraid of this 65-year-old, 60-odd-year-old guy. Oh, he's made... I just don't see it. This matter is with police. Reform stands for the highest standards of conduct in public life and will apply these standards without fear nor favour, including within our own party. I just don't see it. I mean, this is all orchestrated. Just like before. We get this in one day where Rupert's... The minute Rupert Lowe puts a toe out of line, boom, he's crushed. As I'm saying, it's not about union or independent, it's about survival. This is the way I'm... Exactly. We're losing our culture and way of life. You've got that absolutely correct, Jay. We're losing everything here. And every election that goes past, the problem becomes harder. The problem gets worse and worse. We've got all these migrants who are now voting against us, cancelling out our votes. And the problem just gets harder and harder to overcome. And Britain just sinks further and further and further into the toilet. So, I mean, we're at critical stages here. But can reform come back for this? I don't know. And we're going to try to find... we'll bring this down a minute. We'll bring myself down a bit. And we'll find Rupert Lowe's response. And Rupert is getting almost more... He's more popular than Farage. He's getting to be the more popular than Farage. He really is. Let's look at the bookmarks, because I've got a fair amount. And we get this. This has happened in Falkirk the other day. Asylum seeker raped girl, 15, in the town centre. How many more killings? How many more rapes? I mean, Scotland's just getting more and more of these migrant hotels. More and more. How much more can people put up with this? And, it won't be long before we've got vigilante groups here in Scotland. It could be somebody's sister, somebody's daughter. Could be your sister, could be your daughter. It doesn't bear thinking about. Her life changed forever because of someone that shouldn't be here. I'll remove this and I'll get what we're talking about here. We'll bring this up again. Rupert Lowe. I feel so sorry for the millions of decent British men and women from all over the country who put their faith in reform. So it looks like he's taken this approach now. And it will go through the comments, because the comments are, it's a cry for help. That's what it really is. It's a cry for help. People in the comments looked to Rupert because he was connecting with them with what he was saying. He was so common sense. It's shocking. I feel so sorry for millions of decent British men and women from all over the country who put their faith in reform. They've been let down by this malicious circus. You all deserve so much better. And, you know, I'm asking him what the hell's next. What is next for Rupert Lowe? But there, Connor Tomlinson, probably top comment, right? He's at the Lotus ears. I want a party capable of fixing the country I intend to raise my children in. The cause is all that matters. This is the sentiment that people need to have. I think it's the only sentiment that people have to know. You don't feel comfortable raising your kids in this country as it stands, and people are moving about to find the best areas in order to do it. Whereas every corner of this island should be safe, should be a fantastic place to raise your kids in. But sadly, that's just not the case. It's not the case. I don't know why, you know, like he's saying sorry here, but what's Rupert done? What has Rupert done? Wolf, it's far from over. Start your own party. You have parliamentary pulpit to promote it, and you already have a significant following. We have over 4 years to the next general election. Jesus. A one-way ticket to Texas or Poland soon. Exactly. Glenn Jackson saying evening. Is it Falkirk that's putting up the council tax by 15%? It is Falkirk that's putting up the council tax by 15.6%. You know, it's maybe to cover all the policing that they need to do for these migrants. We stand with you, Rupert. Keep on fighting. Rupert, join the Homeland Party. And you'll see this as well. You'll see this happening over, again, I'm going to give you some anecdotes because I am entrenched in this myself. Where does Niall Fraser go for here? Where does Niall Fraser go for here? But you'll hear this party over and over and over again, the Homeland Party. What do they want? They want what everyone else wants. They want what everyone else wants that maybe are too, even those who are maybe too afraid to say they want it yet. They want remigration. They want people moved out of this country. They want they want the jets fueled up as they're entering government. And that's the only way forward. The only way forward is remigration. It's the only way. And it needs to happen. And anybody that I've talked to, you know, that have said they want remigration, everyone's saying, give me a bit of that. Give me a bit of that. Our country is it's on its knees, ladies and gentlemen. We've got how many stabbings, how many shootings, how many killings, how many rapes, how many grooming gangs. It feels like it doesn't even feel like it, we're being taken over. These boats that keep arriving, and I think the number was over 150,000 migrants have come over in 4,300 boats in the last, since 2018. 150,000 illegals in boats. And we've no stopped yet. Matthew Middleton seems to like the Homeland. I see we're going to get more and more people moving to Homeland for this, because Homeland are resolute on their promises and they will not back down. They will not back down. We're not all fucked yet, Jay. We're not. Things have to change. I read through the website last week and they've got a lot of other great policies as well. And, I offered them, my housing policy as well, because it seems like we've got obviously there'll be a great number of houses and flats when they remigrate everyone. But to address the skill shortage here in Britain, to sort of bring back a wee bit of pride, a wee bit of community, not even a wee bit, to bring back community, we need deportations all over the place. But we need to start building houses. We need to be training people from school. We need to be telling people for school that you will be granted the opportunity to build your own house. Build your own house. Escape the debt slavery of mortgages. When the pound is being manipulated all day, and when you see these inflation numbers that flash up on the screen of the news, if you're sadly watching, if you're sadly watching BBC or Sky News or any of these things, and they talk about inflation all the time, that is just their pound is buying less. And they always talk about inflation's only at 2%. Well, it's only the prices are only rising at 2%. And they keep printing money, and they say we've got $1 billion. We've got billions in a black hole, and yet they'll send it to Ukraine. They won't defend our borders here in Britain, but they'll go and defend a foreign country's borders. Just get to fuck. We can't go on like this. We can't go on like this. Millions must be deported. There's no other way this can be contained. It needs to be reversed, and that can only be achieved with remigration. And I agree. And I think as long as this remigration is a word that you'll hear over and over and over again, and you're going to hear the Homeland Party over and over and over again, because they were already sort of tentative with reform. This is the thing. People see, especially here in Scotland, right, where they've not got that. Scotland doesn't have an actual reform leader here. We've got Nigel Farage, who's the leader right across the United Kingdom. Which, as a unionist, you might say, well, actually, that's not a bad idea. But I think the politics here in Scotland and England are they're not the same. And you'd be wrong in thinking that they are. England is the rest of Britain is in such a bad place in terms of illegal migrants, in terms of the need for deportations. In Scotland, it's not nearly as bad. It's still bad, but it's not nearly as bad. Factions guru. No joining Homeland, Britain First, or UKIP without public membership transparency. I'm not even versed on whether they don't show their memberships. I know that Homeland are approaching 1,000 mark. They'll probably beat that tonight. That's the thing. A lot of people, they were hedging their bets on reform. They were hanging their coat on the reform hook. And now, people are like, what the fuck? Rupert Lowe was one of he was supposed to be, I used to think reform in a way. You got Farage, you've got, there's different sectors of reform, it seemed. There was people who were more open to mass deportations than others. I mean? And this is the thing with a big party like this. You end up with, people with conflicting opinions, which is the case. It's going to happen. But I feel that every single person in reform needs to be on the remigration train, or else they're just going to get swamped. And the chairman in reform has made a big mistake. And I keep going away from my anecdote here, but I make a video for reform, and it was one of maybe not my best speech, but it was one that I made specifically for reform, saying that we need mass deportations up and down the country, up and down. Net zero migration. We need negative. It needs to be negative. I would have I would close. See, if it was me, factions. If it was me, I would close the country entirely. We need, for extreme situations, we need extreme measures. We need to close the borders entirely. Total moratorium. No immigration whatsoever. And that includes legal immigration. None. Until we sort the problems here. 1 in 1 out's not good enough. 1 in 1 out is not good enough. I know you're probably on my side here, factions, but I agree with you. It's not even feasible, this 1 in 1 out. Conservative nationalists, take it from an Englishman, it'll be every bit as bad in Scotland as it is in England in 2 years max. I used to say that my city would never look like London, and it does now. And this is the thing. It's a creeping cancer on our country. It's a creeping cancer. Force for good. We need more leaving than coming in. Most of the people who leave will be foreigners. Absolutely. We would probably need a 10-to-1 ratio here. 10 in. 10 out, 1 in. I mean, I just don't know where reform go for here. I really don't. We'll get to, Rupert Lowe. If Rupert Lowe was to join Homeland, which I think is his natural party, you might laugh. You might say, who the hell's Homeland? They're growing massively. And they're starting at the bottom up. They're not a party for, you can't buy your way in, basically. And a lot of parties these days, and you just look at Labour in Scotland. Labour in Scotland, Anas Sarwar bought his way in. They buy their way into politics. And they just get their own way. Sarwars are one of the richest families in Scotland. Why is it that it's the richest people in a society that end up buying their way into politics? So there's things that need to happen here. And a force for good, if you're at your computer, you're welcome to jump on stream. You're welcome to jump on stream and talk about the need for deportations here. So if you're listening, force for good, you're more than welcome to jump on stream. I'll give you a link in 5 seconds if you want to come on and talk about deportations and the need for it. Because I know that you're very well versed in immigration matters. Matthew, what's Matthew saying? Population in 1997 when I was born, it was 58 million. It's now 68 million. We have a less than maintained birth rate. So where's the other 10 million came from? See, the population, and they do everything they can to sort of to keep the decline of the native population. You know what I mean? The native population's declining. And what's the answer? It's not to try to counteract the native population decline, is it? It's never counteract the native population decline. It's always, let's just bring more migrants in. Let's just bring more migrants in. We no sort of afterthought as to the repercussions. And we'll just say, it's so frustrating. It's so frustrating. But, Rupert Lowe's going to go. Rupert Lowe, wherever he goes next, a huge amount of people will follow. I'm sure of it, because a lot of people were actually, they were sort of disenchanted with Farage in the first place. And that's not to say, Farage is good. I think very capable leader, obviously great on television. He's got good connections with Trump, blah, blah, blah. But is it what Britain needs? I think Britain needs someone like Rupert Lowe more than it needs somebody like Farage. And I make no apologies for saying that. Let's bring this down now. I'll put myself back on the screen. And let's look at some other bookmarks. But it's very, very, very strange. Here we go again. I'll take myself off so you can read it. I asked reasonable and constructive questions of Nigel Farage and Reform's leadership following months of pushing for progress behind closed doors. And this is people have been behind closed doors. The Reform leadership is very close-knit. It's very, very close-knit. It's very guarded. And look at this. It was posted at 6 o'clock 3 hours ago, and it's got 1 million views. I mean, this is going to have some backlash. This is going to have a crazy amount of backlash, ladies and gentlemen. I asked for reasonable, constructive questions of Nigel Farage and Reform's leadership following months of pushing for progress behind closed doors. The day after, I find a knife in my back over false allegations, whip suspended. That tells you everything you need to know. This is just crazy scenes here. And again, cui bono, ladies and gentlemen, cui bono. Who benefits? Who benefits? Well, it's the establishment. The Tories benefit. Labour are benefiting. Moreover, the Tories are benefiting. But, I mean, are we going to see defections back? Are we going to see defections back from Reform to the Tories? Is that even conceivable? Is this possible? Will we see people defect to Reform and then a few months later defect back to the Tories? I mean, that would be unheard of. The UK heading for civil war in the near future unless radical change is implemented. And I fear that that's the case, Eric. It's no safe. This is the thing. It all boils down to safety, doesn't it, Eric? If you can't walk about your streets and feel really safe, if women can't walk about the streets and feel safe, then there's a massive problem. London's irrecognisable. Birmingham's irrecognisable. Manchester, huge cities in England that are no longer English cities. They're no longer English cities. Another one. There is zero evidence of me making derogatory or discriminatory remarks about women or disabled people. Anyone who repeats that will be hearing from my libel lawyer. I include Reform in that. The truth will out. The truth will out. GB News reporting that the police received the complaint yesterday. This is the thing. Like, as soon as the remarks are made by Rupert Lowe, as soon as he puts a toe to line, as soon as he, it's not like he takes a shot at the king either. It's not like Rupert Lowe, he's taken a shot at the king and he's missed. If you're going to kill the king, you better not miss. He's not even done that. It's very constructive what he said. He said, hold on a minute, Farage. You're acting like a messiah here. You need to rein it in a bit. You need to sort of democratise the party. And it can't just be the Farage show. Boom. The next day, they're putting these tendrils out in the media and getting them and suspended for the party. The complaint obviously went in just after I asked reasonable questions of Reform's leadership, a malicious attempt to drag my name through the mud. Just crazy. Zia Yusuf has a lot to answer for. Did he destroy Reform on purpose? And this is where this is what a lot of people are going to think, and it's it's semi what I think as well. Put in place by the establishment to maintain, it's as soon as Reform sort of start beating consistently the Tories and Labour in polls, as soon as this happens, they have to be brought down a peg. They have to be brought down a peg. And here we are. Farage isn't the party leader. Oh, here we go. And this is Ben Habib. I think I bookmarked that. No one, absolutely no one, believes the utter rubbish spouted by Zia Yusuf about Rupert Lowe. Farage isn't the party leader right now. It's clear the decisions are being made by Zia Yusuf. Farage sold the party to an Islamist. Fucking hell. There's bad things afoot here in the reform. There's bad things afoot. And I fear they're just going to tank. They're going to tank. Once they were a glimmer of hope in the cloudy skies across Britain. A glimmer of hope, a silver lining that possibly Britain could see better. And that hope is dashed. Is it all just unorganized? Is it for demoralisation? With the current trajectory Britain is heading, I have long held the opinion that people will flock to vote for a political party that will restore law and order. When the penny drops at the normies, with the normies, that remigration is essential to achieve this, it will be joyous. But it's the same. We're seeing this right across. Mass immigration is the number one topic, and I say it was the number one voting sentiment right across the West. And you see it right across France, you see it right across Germany. AfD narrowly getting defeated, but they keep gaining and gaining and gaining and gaining. But my problem with this Conservative nationalist, and it's not really a problem with what you're saying at all, it's that on this road, when you think about this, the road that people have to go on to get the opinion that remigration is essential, right? This road involves mass stabbings. This road involves more rapes, more killings, more people dying in Britain in order to get people to change their opinion. And this is sadly what's happening. Let's see, I get a message there. Add me to the stage. Add me to the stage. Make me big screen. Make me big screen. And we're going to have a guest. I'm just going to bring on a guest ad hoc because I don't really care anymore. Right. And we're going to get Alison McConaughey Force for Good on. And we'll look at more of these. Here we go. Look at this one. And we're getting we're getting breaking news as it's coming in, ladies and gentlemen. As it's coming in. I agree. Sadly, things will have to get worse before things begin to heal. It's so sad that this is the case, Conservative nationalists, isn't it? It's actually disturbing. It's very disturbing that in order for us to get better, things have to get worse. But then you didn't want to have to sink to such a level before you have to start clawing yourself back up. 2 seconds, folks. But here we go. This is just 9:07, so just after we started the show. A spokesperson for the Met Police on Thursday, the 6th of March, yesterday, we received an allegation of verbal threats made by a 67-year-old man on Friday, December 13th. The report was made yesterday, but the supposed threat came months ago. Right, so this is... Can you believe this? Can you actually believe this? See, if somebody threatened you, would you wait 3 months to tell the police about it? There's something very suspicious about this all. And the inevitable is, how can Reform campaign on free speech when their Muslim chairman is literally reporting speech crimes? Again, it's the same thing. He's absolutely correct. There's something very wrong. Oops. And the Homeland Party are having an absolute fest. They are having the best day of their life, the Homeland Party. They really are. They're having an absolute heyday with this. And we'll look at some of the memes that the Homeland Party, I mean, their meme warfare department, the Homeland Meme Warfare Department is operating on full steam. But yes, there's things that are happening, and we're just going to scroll down. I mean, there's just more and more happening. Very short-sighted and ill-advised decision by your strongest MP. Reform needs to get serious if it wants to win. But we do have a guest, and we're not going to keep the guest waiting. I'm going to bring my Alison McConaughey up, and we're going to talk what the hell's happening. We'll look at some of the comments. The US is finally restoring law and order mindset and get things back to common sense. Hopefully at the UK. We're praying for it, Pink Pillows. Looks like, guys, we're happy to see him. So here comes Alistair McConaughey of Force for Good. Welcome to the show, Alistair. I mean, tell me what you make of these events.
Thanks very much for having me on tonight. And congratulations for putting out these regular programs. And you're bang on the button tonight with this breaking news that surprised everybody and shocked people, I think. And I am afraid that it might demoralize a lot of people as well, because you've spoken and you always speak about the state that the country is in. And as we look around, we really don't see very much realistically on the horizon that potentially could get us out of the hole that the political class has dug us in post World War II. So except Reform, of course, and they do have, hitherto, they've had very good spokesmen, and Rupert Lowe has really distinguished himself in the last 6 months on Twitter, saying things and really pushing the envelope in a way that Nigel Farage, and credit to him, has never done. And as for Richard Tice hasn't done either. So Rupert has been a real breath of fresh air,
yes,
for a lot of people. And it's been amazing to have somebody like that in Parliament. He's still obviously in Parliament and part of a growing party. And the party has, just in the last 2 or 3 weeks, has actually been in polling equally or above Labour, and certainly above Tories as well. Certainly above Tories anyway. And so that's given a lot of people hope. And I think it should still give people hope. But so if you're running Reform, this is the last time, the worst time to cause a civil war in the party. It's beyond comprehension, really, that people would do that. And I read that press release from Lee Anderson and Zia Yusuf several times, and one or two things we should definitely clarify there is it's poorly written, because it does not properly say that the women in this office were making a complaint against Rupert Lowe. And Rupert Lowe has been very clear about that the complaints that women may have made were not against Rupert Lowe. They may possibly, if we can define it from the press release, they may possibly have been against some staffer who works for Rupert Lowe. I don't know. But quite frankly, even if it were the case, unless it's something really, really major and borderline criminal, you don't wash that dirty linen in public, ever. That's guaranteed to be embarrassing and dangerous for your party. And not only that, but it's a very kind of snowflakey thing to do. Dan Wootton used that phrase tonight in a tweet. An absolute snowflake move from a party that's meant to be against snowflakery.
Exactly.
Against that. against that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so that's a very surprising thing that it should do. And secondly, as for the idea of physical threatening somebody again, that's a very dangerous thing to accuse somebody of.
Well, I mean, let's take it in context as well. It's a 67-year-old man.
Exactly.
Threatening, someone who's in their prime. And it's, it just doesn't ring true to me. And if you look at the tweet as well, that, this incident was supposed to have occurred in December, and yet they've complained about it yesterday. So the whole thing stinks to high heaven, Alistair.
Well, it completely does. It completely does, and it's baffling. It's baffling. Now, David Clues did make a good point tonight on Twitter, and he said, "Look, we know about Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe cuts through a lot on Twitter, but for your average Joe on the street, they've never heard of him. Okay, exactly. In my local street here in Glasgow, I could walk down. Most people have probably heard of Nigel Farage on my street. Right. Almost nobody's heard of Rupert Lowe. And Nigel Farage knows that, and he knows that he is and will remain, and let's be clear about this, he's going to remain the head honcho of reform right up until 2029 at least. And that's always going to be good for reform. We can't pretend that like reform's all going to collapse now. No, it's not, because the people who answer on the opinion polls and the people who vote for it and so on, they're doing it because of Nigel Farage and so on. They're not doing it for Rupert Lowe. Rupert Lowe is a kind of intellectual voice who would be very good to stay doing what he does, but it's Nigel who's the carnival barker. And if you want something a little bit more nuanced, then you would go to Rupert Lowe, and that the pair of them work very well together. But maybe I don't know why, but they've decided to get rid of Rupert Lowe. And you suggested it. Is it the establishment that doesn't like his message? Well,
well, it's always who benefits, Alistair, right? Who benefits? Qui bono? Like, I mean, who does this actually benefit? It benefits the Tories, right? And we've actually got someone waiting in the wings. Actually, we've got a very special guest coming on, Kenny Smith, the chairman of the Homeland Party, who I bet is having a fantastic day as the chairman. So, I mean, who does it actually benefit? It benefits the establishment, doesn't it, Alistair? And you can remain on. I want you to remain on as well, Alistair. We'll get a sort of freeway conversation, but we'll ask Kenny how great a day that he's been having, and we can have a freeway conversation about what this actually means.
Yes, I don't want to argue with people regarding their political parties or anything like that, but just the point that to answer your point, it benefits the Tories and it benefits Labour. Yep. And the thing with reform is that it has been getting a few Tories coming in. And you've got to remember, these Tories are not like radical people. They're not revolutionary people. They just want a slightly stronger form of conservatism.
Yes.
And they are going to be afraid when anybody stands up and says that they support Tommy Robinson, or Tommy Robinson should be credited. Rupert Lowe did that. He did it in a kind of very diplomatic way. And but nevertheless, that would scare people. Yeah, that would scare some of you kind of Tory types in reform. And I don't know who's funding it really, but some of them might not like that. And so there might be like, Rupert is just a bit of a wild card, and maybe we've got to kind of silence him a bit. That's what it looks like. Because there's no other really serious reason for that. But I would say though that it'll damage reform to an extent, but reform is still going to remain strong because of Nigel. And Nigel is like laying down the law. He recognizes he's the big cheese. He's got the big power. He's the draw. And he probably thinks, well, there's other Rupert Lowes out there who will come on. So I don't think in any way that this is the end of reform. And I'm sure Kenny will take a different view on that, obviously, because he's got his own party. But I do feel that Reform are, and I have no dog in the fight. I'm not a member of it, and I'm never going to be a member of Reform. But I don't think it's going to damage Reform in the way that some people think. But it's an unnecessary self-inflicted wound, from which they may well recover in time. But for the short term, it's going to be infighting, and other parties such as Kenny's will no doubt benefit from that.
Well, that's a great introduction for the man himself. But I mean, Conservative Nationalist Kenny Smith of the Homeland Party, he is in the house. He's in the house, and we're going to ask him how great a day he's having. So we'll bring him up. We'll have a conversation, and we'll pick him. We sort of. I want to understand the remigration policy, right, in full detail. And if he can explain it, that even better. But we'll bring him up, and he can introduce himself, and he can tell us all about it. So, Kenny, welcome to the party, my friend.
How are you doing, fellas? Long time no speak, Alistair. Hope you're keeping well.
I'm doing well. Hope you are too, Kenny.
I am indeed. Although I'm a lot further south now. I'm down in Worcestershire now.
All right.
Yeah. I was living in Glasgow, I think, the last time we met. Many moons
ago.
That
was almost last century, just about. But indeed, yeah.
Is this an unintentional reunion here?
It is, yeah. I remember Alistair. Would have been probably the 90s that I first met you, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yes, round about then, anyway.
Yeah, but yeah, what an extraordinary turn of events today. It's really, really quite incredible. And I think for me, I think one of our party members, Pete North, he called it way back in December that Rupert would be sent packing by Nigel. Rupert Lowe is probably the most effective MP we've got in the country. Yes. He is also, I think, the MP who is most in tune, not just with Reform members, but with the general public. Poll after poll tells us that people are opposed to mass immigration. And Rupert Lowe, not every one of his posts is spot on in terms of what I believe, but in terms of what the general public believes, and generally, he hits the nail on the head, 9 times out of 10. Sorry if you keep hearing that popping, that's me getting notification that there's new members coming through. It's absolutely exploded tonight.
Well, let's talk about that. I mean, there'll be a lot of people, right, that are straddling, that they're sort of in between Reform and Homeland now. And I'm sure that you get this a lot, Kenny, but people are like, well, actually, and it's terms about electability, and I know that you're going for a long-term strategy with Homeland here, but in terms of electability, obviously Reform looking to be getting MPs the next general election, but they'll be very sympathetic to the Homeland message at the same time. So I mean, it has this turbocharged the Homeland sort of movement here. I'm hoping to hear more pops as we go along, because I'm sure a lot of people who are straddling, trying to straddle both horses of Homeland and Reform are now, they've abandoned the horse of Reform with this suspension of Rupert Lowe. So if you want to speak a wee bit about that, and I mean, what the sort of growth that Homeland's experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, before our conference in September, we were roughly 240, 250 members. We're now, tonight, we are overtaking 1,000 members. That's incredible in anybody's book, particularly for a party like ours, who are staunchly nationalist. We're unapologetic with our rhetoric, and we're fighting for a brand nationalism that is tarnished. In some circles, they'll tell you nationalists are worse than paedophiles. It's mental, but in the liberal progressive community, that is true. So we've got a massive uphill struggle. But what we've tried to do with the Homeland Party is remove all the cranks and weirdos from our sphere, and I genuinely believe nationalism is the answer for all the peoples around the world. We're the only people who actually believe in true diversity. That what the liberal progressives and current society does now is shoves everybody together into this great melting pot, and it destroys indigenous cultures. And what happens is when all these different cultures come together, they start, and if they're in any kind of size, they start clashing and fighting. And we see ethnic conflict in every major urbanized part of the country between different groups who have got any kind of strength at all. They flex and they want control. There's 4 members of the UK Parliament who were elected on a purely ethnic vote. A Muslim ethnic vote.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're doing with the Homeland Party is saying nationalism is the answer, and we've been open and honest with it. Reform members predominantly are nationalists. They want an end to mass immigration, and they want remigration.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nigel has already said that's an impossibility. It's utter nonsense. Other nations, for example, Pakistan, have last year remigrated 800,000 Afghanis. Other nations around the world have done it. America has done it in the past. It's a common occurrence all around the world. Our establishment figures have just told us, oh, it's not possible. It's disgusting to even think about it. Now, what we differ in terms of why we say remigration and we don't talk about deportation is because for us, remigration is something sensible and humane. It benefits the host nation, but it should also benefit the people who are departing. And we want them to go back to their homeland and make their homelands better, go back with their own quality of life. We don't want to split families. It's good for everybody. Mm-hmm. These people are in communities at the moment that are very hostile to our way of life, to our culture, our indigenous religions, all these things. They attack it and they want to change it. Well, if they're not happy, let's send them home to places where they will be happy amongst their own kind. They don't have to fight to change anything. They don't have to hate us. Mm-hmm. We can do that. It's very, very possible. Donald Trump has just been elected and he started remigration. The AfD in Germany have just got their greatest ever vote by promoting women and the safety of women and children and remigration. It is an absolute vote winner. And when you've got guys like Rupert Lowe telling you that these things must happen, he's tried to avoid using the word remigration because Reform have actually told their people not to use remigration because it'll give strength to the Homeland Party. We're a tiny little party, but they're absolutely terrified of us. Mm-hmm. And they're instructing their people, don't use this word because you're just going to help the Homeland Party. So people are aware of us. They pretend they're not, but they are. And because Rupert is a man of integrity and speaking what the membership want, that threatened Farage from my perspective. He's gone on publicly and said, this is a political impossibility. You can't do it. It's utter nonsense. So, yeah, it's inevitable that this was going to happen. Pretty underhanded and disgusting the way I think it has happened. I'm to be honest with you. I was in a meeting tonight. We had a meeting with our team from Eastern tonight. Our team in Norwich and our team in Essex have just drafted 2 new local leaflets for their community campaigns. So I came out of that meeting and things were just exploding. It was mad. But for me, remigration is something that can be done sensibly. There's no 2 ways about it. You remove the illegals for a start. You remove the criminals. Then you remove the people who are actively subversive and working against the state. After that, it's about encouragement. It's about, putting our people first, taking away the extra advantages people have for their religion. They get advantages we don't. This positive discrimination thing is a fact of life now. Companies have been made to hire people because of their ethnicity against us. So remigration just means we correct the balance, put our own people first, and these people, when they start losing these advantages and all the benefits they get here, will want to leave. So we don't have to have this image of deportations that's kicking indoors and removing people and setting families. That's a complete nonsense. The remigration process might take, 20, 30 years. And you'll also, what you'll also do is, as this gathers steam, more and more will go quickly. And you also get private enterprise. There's a fantastic, I can't say too much, but there's a fantastic initiative going to happen in Europe this year, with entrepreneurs and businesses talking about how we can privatize elements of remigration, make it profitable for people. That's going to revolutionize things. You've already had one of the biggest security firms in the USA offering Donald Trump, who's a Lewis man, or Lewis ancestry like myself. Got to get that in. So we're on a Scottish podcast here. Donald's got Scottish roots from Lewis, same as me. Basically saying, we can help the remigration process. I also know that Ryanair last year told the Tories, we can provide the planes you need for remigration. So, these are things that can be done. And, Ryanair, fantastic planes, have gone on quite a lot. They can pack a lot of people in. But we will allow them to go with their assets and stuff like that. So, we can gesture these things.
I think it's going to be easier than people think, because I always hark back to last year when Humza Yousaf himself, a few riots, small-scale riots kicked off in England, and Humza Yousaf went public saying that he didn't think that Britain could be his long-term home, from what he was seeing, and his family were thinking about, should we even continue to stay here? Now, that's the guy who used to be the First Minister.
Exactly.
Right. He's got no loyalty to Scotland at all. Yeah. No loyalty at all. He'll pretend that he does, of course, but he's got no loyalty. So the thing is, if the First Minister of Scotland is thinking about leaving, lots of people will leave. And I like what Kenny said there about remigration. This is actually a cleverer word than deportation, which sounds a little
it's much better.
Police state-like. Whereas remigration, you go home, you make your own country great again, as I saw a banner saying last week. So, and the way I see it as well is, if we can get this small boat asylum thing sorted out, if we can start saying, no, you can't come in, you have to go back. And there's hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of fake asylum seekers leaving the country, then that will set the trend. It's like, right, so foreigners actually can leave the country after all. And it can be a legal process to actually put them on planes and let them go. So it becomes just part of people's normal life. Oh yeah, the foreigners, how many left this month? It'll become a natural thing that they just leave, these people, and they might be here for 2 or 3 years, but they always go back. And so just getting into people's heads, this idea that they're not permanent, and that involves changing the laws, which means somehow acquiring political power. And as I've been saying, I'm writing a book on policies to protect the borders, basically, to protect our country. And one of the things that's big is indefinite leave to remain. And if you're a legal immigrant, you only need to get out some kind of low-paying job in care or whatever. You just need to stick it out for 5 years. And once you've been here for 5 years, you can apply for this indefinite leave to remain. And that will give you access to everything, basically everything. You don't even need to become a citizen. A citizen these days doesn't give you anything other than a passport and the right to call yourself British. You get everything from indefinite leave to remain. And you get that after 5 years. Who brought that in? Edward Heath in 1971. And I was thinking about that this morning. I'm old enough to remember 1971, although I was a small boy at the time, but I'm sure the adults had no clue what was going on, because there was 3 television channels, there was newspapers that people read. But if Edward Heath wanted to completely mess up the immigration system and give everybody indefinite leave to remain after 5 years, he could do it and nobody would complain, because nobody knew it happened. And we're only discovering now, 40, 50 years later, that he actually did it. And that's been one of the big problems. And of course, it's got worse in the last few years because of the Boris wave.
I wanted to chat about what this private enterprise entering this remigration space, because there's almost like no difference. I mean, it's private enterprise that are putting up these migrant hotels, that are running these migrant hotels. So it's almost like a mirror image of that. So I mean, it's no inconceivable at all that you could have private enterprise doing these deportations on behalf of the government. So I mean, do you want to say anything about that? I mean, that's absolutely perfect, because it's a mirror image of exactly what's happening here in Britain with these migrant hotels. Was it Sevco and all these private companies that are running these migrant hotels? So for me, that's the answer. You make it profit driven to deport these people.
Yeah. So people are always
Go ahead, Kenny.
I was going to say, so people are always telling you, or they've spent decades now telling us that there are economic benefits to mass immigration. Every week now, there's more statistics out to prove that has been a massive big lie. There is no economic benefit. It costs the nation enormously, and NHS being the perfect example. There are more immigrant users of the service than people working in the service. It's a no-brainer. But exactly what you said there, Niall, you have private enterprise are the people who are providing the accommodation, who are making an absolute fortune from taxpayers' money housing these people. Domino's Pizza makes a fortune from these ventures. The people supplying mattresses, all these things. There are masses and masses of private enterprises making a fortune out of the asylum scandal. And Alistair, you said something earlier on that I will definitely be using again. Every day we see these figures about how many people came across on the boats. I guarantee you, when remigration starts, there will be channels and followers telling you how many people have been remigrated on planes and boats today. It'll be fantastic to see that. But there are so many aspects to remigration that will need support. It's not just about the planes and the boats and the buses and the ferries, the trains, whatever you have. We want to help these people going. At the moment, you see a whole network of legal services people that help people to swindle the system and get their right to remain in the country. That as well as a farce. Most other nations around the world have guest worker schemes where they allow people to come in and work to the benefit of the nation when it's needed on a temporary basis. It gives them no rights whatsoever to the country. Our political leaders are so thick they haven't even thought of doing something like that. It literally is retarded. But there are so many services, from legal services to all sorts of other things, security and all the rest of it. That
migration industry.
Yeah, that will support the exit, and this is a process that will take, I believe, at least 30 years to reach its conclusion. And that as that happens as well, for me, the other big question that you always get, how are you going to budget this? How are you going to afford to do this? This is a massive operation. Well, private enterprise, they'll do it. People will bid and win contracts for us and make it competitive, make it cheap. And these people will find ways of making money for themselves. Britain is a nation of entrepreneurs. At one time, small business was encouraged in this country, and we hope to do that again. People will get rich on the back of remigration, guaranteed, and the state will not have to tax our population to do it. We will get richer and more prosperous as a nation, as a people, if we implement remigration, because right now we pay for it from bang every single day. It costs us. I moved from the lovely Isle of Skye, where I was paying something like £400 annually for my car insurance. I moved to Hagley in Worcestershire, and it jumped up to £1,400, and they told me it is because of car crime. This where I live, it's pretty much crime free. It's a lovely place. You wouldn't think mass immigration had affected anything. until it came to night time, and they come in from Birmingham, from Northfield, and they come to steal people's cars. And that's why my insurance has gone through the roof. That's a direct result of mass immigration, because the people coming in to steal the cars are not Indigenous people. They're coming from two specific communities.
I mean, we're talking about the hotels, right? I know a hotel owner, right? And, you know, just to say for the sake of argument, it's £49 a room for the night, which includes your breakfast, right? Then they sell the hotel to this private enterprise for migrants, and all of a sudden it's £90 for the room, and it's £14.50 for breakfast, and then they have to pay for all the damages, and it's us that's incurring the cost. It's us, the taxpayer, that's incurring the cost of this, and people are they're becoming billionaires off the back of this immigration industry. But there's a few questions in the comments. We've got the one that's flashed up on screen. Can you ask Kenny about Homeland in Scotland? You know, what's the situation for Homeland in Scotland, Kenny?
Really good. We have got 3 community councillors in Scotland, all who do a fantastic job in our community. The guys in the northeast of Scotland in particular at the moment are absolutely smashing it. You know, I've got to give a shout out to Josh and Jamie and Dave. The environmental stuff they're doing at the moment is absolutely resonating with people. Every time I see one of these videos pop up, see Josh's smiling face. We're making nationalism fun again, you know, and people are getting involved. They're excited about their community. There's guys coming out. You know, we all know what the weather's like in Scotland, don't we? At this time of year, it's miserable, it's damp, it's cold, and our guys are you know, traveling in an hour or two to go and plant trees and you know, do cleanups and things like that. It's incredible. It is currently, in terms of numbers, our second biggest region. More active in the Glasgow area and the northeast of Scotland. You know, we're a small party. You know, tonight we've passed the 900 mark. I keep getting wee notifications. We're closing in. We're very fast, not far away from 1,000 members tonight. So we are small, but what we are is dedicated, and we're not one of those parties that wants to be flash in the pan, jumping about everywhere, just trying to get headlines. We actually want to make a difference in communities because we love our people, we love where we live, and we want to sink roots in that makes us viable for a long time. So we're not a sensationalist party who tries to do demos and get headlines. We want to do solid work in communities and make people's lives better. So it's not always glamorous, and it's not something that is going to a lot of the time wow people, because we're doing boring hard graft. But what we are doing is winning hearts and minds, and it's growing us in communities. For example, one of our councillors in Perth and Kinross, he managed to save the local bus service for his village. That's fantastic work. And when the Tories and the Labour and the SNP guys didn't give a crap, Jamie got out there and fought that campaign and saved it. We've got other guys, you know, opposing solar farms, working on flood defence. It's not exactly what people think about nationalism. You know, think that, oh, you would be protesting asylum seeker hotels all the time. No, we actually want to genuinely make a positive impact in people's lives. Other councillors that we've got down in England, the town and parish councillors, you know, one of them managed to get his town council to do away with their pride budget. This council was spending, you know,
fantastic work,
you know, 2, 3, 4 grand a year funding pride displays. We're in a cost of living crisis, guys. Spend that budget, spend it on something sensible to benefit all our community. You know, that stuff that even at the low level we're working off, that can make a massive positive impact on people's community. So, but being a small party, what we lack right now is leaders everywhere. We're getting pockets of members all over the place, but we still don't have as many branch organisers as we want. So that's something we're developing. People, you know, like Steve Laws has come aboard, Pete North, and then when they see what's happening behind the scenes, they're absolutely blown away, because we're putting proper infrastructure in, time in, support networks in for, you know, our community support worker teams. So we've got a massive infrastructure that's going to help people. If people come on board the party, we ask them straight away, what's your skills? What can you do for us? We're not here to serve them. We want them to work for the party and work for our people. So we're very different from things gone before. But we're giving these the opportunity to people to be leaders, but also trying to give them the support that I've never seen before in nationalism. I know people are involved in reform and they're complaining. They come on board us and says, well, you're far more professional than Reform are. You've got things sorted on a regional basis, on a structural basis. So that's what we want. We want more people to come on board in Scotland and every other region. Try and take the lead if you can, but if not, come and support where you can, because our strategy works. Community politics works. And for me, it's never, ever been tried properly in nationalism before. I was part of the team in the BNP in the 90s who tried to change what the party was about, trying to change our focus, our direction, make it more sensible, embrace community politics. And when we finally started getting that happening in the early noughties and implemented in lots of places, it was phenomenally successful. In places like Burnley and Barking and Dagenham, we were the official opposition in the councils there. But it wasn't embraced by the party leadership at the time. And, after, they turfed me out, it fell away. Now, they still got two MEPs, but the damage had already been done. So nobody has created a political party in this country that is fully focused on community politics. And we know what crackpots the Lib Dems are. What, the Green Party in Scotland, my goodness, there's nobody has more nuts than them. But they do the community politics thing, and they do it very, very, very well, because they hide what they're doing. We're very different. We do community politics, and we do it honestly. We don't shy away from saying, yeah, we stand up for the ethnic identity of our people. We're pro remigration, anti-mass immigration, but we also do the community politics. We also do the nice local things and realize that we have to build up. So I believe that we are unique in British politics today. In fact, that we're honest. We're not about the cult of personality. I want thousands of leaders around the country, so that the reason you join the Homeland Party is because Josh is a great activist in Aberdeenshire. Dave and Forfar, Jamie and Dundee. These things, you're joining because you see the impact your team is making locally. That's what the Homeland Party should be for me. And I think we're doing it successfully. People are recognizing that. The surge we're having tonight proves people got on board with Reform because they want the quick fix. They want they want the win. They want things. But the danger of that is you don't actually get what you're wanting. And I seen it. There was an interesting survey that was carried out. I can't remember if it's September or October. That said that the Reform membership are much further to the right than the Reform leadership. Now, normally, even with the Conservative Party and another party, the leadership are often more to the right of the membership. And when I heard that back then, I said, they're heading for troubled waters. If your membership is more right wing than you are, you're not going to hold on to that, people. And that's what United, guys have been telling me that, every second message and tell us, I've just sacked off Reform. I'm coming over to use. I've been watching you for ages, but this is the final straw. And it's almost like the tortoise and the hare kind of scenario, isn't it? If we just keep doing the steady work, keep being honest, just keep being sensible, we'll eventually take over these people, because they will implode. If you're constantly lying to your people and telling people we're the party for stop mass immigration, and then once you get a little bit of power, you're saying, well, actually, guys, with that's not going to be able to happen. We're just you start morphing into this Tory 2.0. I know people around about in the West Midlands that we've helped, stalwart Reform characters who built up their branches, who are being usurped by people they've beaten in the last election, but because they're a Tory figurehead come aboard, they're told they're getting to be the candidate next time. When the person from Reform beat them at the last election. That's insane. The desperation to become the new Conservatives, so that they can be in power is pretty disgusting for me. They have, Farage I've known that character for years. He has never been a person of the people. Just because he was tough on Brexit, he said some good things about immigration. Always, when it comes to the crunch, he couldn't care less if we are demographically replaced. And Britain, Scotland, England, Wales, Northern Ireland, we will not be this island nation if we lose the ethnic people of this country, the people that built it, shaped it. If that disappears, it won't be Britain anymore, will it?
Well, just a picture to sort of cement that. This is the one for Ireland, which is, this is the classic, the one that everyone points to. This is what I think Britain faces in the future. It's replacement.
Yeah, because you go to the south side of Glasgow and tell me the schools don't look any different from that.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. I know. Yeah. Alistair, on you go. I'm sure you've got lots of questions here.
Well, no, just largely, generally, on that particular picture, that's the future right now. I mean, that's, as Kenny just said there, that's what a lot of schools in the big cities are. There's me in the middle there. Are indeed, are indeed looking like. And that's, like, I always use the expression, like here in Scotland, if you're in a big city, and if you're in a certain part of a big city, you know what's going on because you're going to schools and your children are in schools like that. But if you're living in a wee village in the Isle of Skye, as Kenny used to, or I don't know what it's like in the Isle of Skye, but I presume it's still pretty white, or indeed anywhere in rural Scotland at the moment, 2025 might be different in 2026, but certainly at the moment. And who lives in the country? It's maybe older people, maybe wealthier people, and they're still living in a world that's like gone now, for most of us city dwellers, and so they're not really aware of the extent to which the country is changing. And the power is in the cities. That's where the money is. That's where the young people are, and so on. So we are in a very bad situation, and I think a lot of Reform members do know that. But Reform's also maybe got a kind of older demographic that's maybe more rural and so on, that doesn't quite grasp these things yet. But I'm pretty sure all the younger people coming up now, who are living this, are aware of what's happening, and I don't have any particular party to promote or anything like that. And I think that both Homeland is like the kind of pure nationalist, and Reform is the more kind of gentle civic nationalist. And at the moment, they probably are both needed in a way, because there's an awful lot of people in Reform who are not going to go to Homeland because they don't like the sound of, certain things like white. The white people don't like to think of themselves as white, as we know. We don't self-consciously identify as white. Most of us have never had to. And to an extent, we still don't. And we like to pretend that we're above that. I'm talking generally, of course. And most white people in Britain are like that. So they will tend to be wary of white politics. But there is going to come a time when they cannot escape having to face it, and that's when you need parties that are not afraid to go there, as it were. But as I said before Kenny came on, I think that Reform will struggle through, because they are. I mean, Nigel is a big part of Reform. Well, Nigel is Reform. Let's face it, Nigel is Reform. He's everybody knows him. He's got almost a huge name and face recognition in Britain, and the people, whoever they are behind Reform, are just betting on Nigel being able to carry the whole thing through on the strength of his own personality. And I mean, he is going to manage that to a very large extent, because he is a powerful political character, and lots of people support him. But I do think there's also a need for something more fundamental, which is where Homeland comes in. And I think that will also have an effect upon Reform. And I think it's probably as a consequence of Homeland and other people like Homeland that made Rupert Lowe, for example, start talking about remigration. I don't know if he ever said the word remigration, but I know he's talked about deportation. So it's like going back to what Kenny was saying there about the BNP in the early 2000s when they won in Burnley and things like that. That forced the Tories at the time, which I think was Michael Howard, to actually start talking about immigration control. Because prior to then, I mean, I remember what it was like. Kenny remembers what it was like. If you said, "Oh, I think there's too many people coming into the country," people would go, "What? What, are you a Nazi? Are you a fascist? How could you possibly?" And that would just be just you saying, I think we should have some kind of immigration control. Now we're talking about deportation and remigration. I mean,
the window's moved so far. It's crazy.
I mean, we've come a long way. We're not physically doing it, but we're talking about it. And without words, there can be no action. So it was like the BNP that forced the system at the time to at least give lip service to the need to control immigration. If they did nothing about it, of course, they did nothing about it. But that was the effect of that fringe party at the time upon mainstream politics. So Homeland and Reform are pushing at that particular window now in a positive way. And I'm not black-pilled about these things. I think that we're in for some pretty rough years, but I think the British will pull through and we'll keep our country on the right path. But I don't think you can just do it through it's going to be rough. It's going to be stormy weather, and there's going to be a lot of one's going to have to be radical. I mean, the financial system's going to need to be looked at. The whole thing is going to have to come into the mix. But I think we're heading there, and I think that's generally a healthy thing.
Well, I think we're getting raided by supporters of the Homeland Party in the comments. Well, first of all, we'll highlight Bailey's comment here. I joined Homeland because I saw how effective community politics could be in Erskine. So, I mean, the community politics, I mean, I've seen it myself. I mean, it's all over the Twitter feeds. It's, taking I don't know where it was that they took graffiti off these rocks, Kenny, but that was a great initiative. Great initiative. Planting trees, great initiative. This is community politics right at the base, and even getting involved in community councils as well. That is, you're coming from the bottom up, and it's the opposite way in when you see these bigger parties like Labour, the Tories, even Reform to a certain extent, where people are just buying their way in. They're buying their way into power. Where you I don't think you're going to get that with Homeland, and I don't think you would you would stand for it. I mean, LHP, Love Homeland Party. Kai Stevens, proud long-term HP activist. Angela Eterna, HP this night has been glued to me my X-feed non-stop endorsements of Homeland Party. And this is what's going to happen as well, Kenny. I can imagine that this won't be just the night you'll see a surge, but I can imagine as this sort of feud with Rupert Lowe and Nigel is aired out in the media tomorrow, the next day, of course, over the next course of weeks or so, you're going to see a massive sort of influx of people that are just disenchanted with Reform. If that's a good thing or a bad thing. Never thought Growing would be referring to herself as Indigenous. Reform are done. Farage has no cards left to play. The momentum tonight is behind Rupert 80-20. And I would agree with that as well. Because like you said at the start of your sort of segment there, Kenny, Rupert seems to be where the British sentiment is. And for them to come down so hard on Rupert just sort of shows that, like you said again, the survey says that, the members of Reform are more to the right than the actual Reform Party themselves, which is a massive problem. We've got Robbie Parlin here. If Reform will turn on their own MP, then they'll turn on their voters. Homeland stands out, on the other hand, as they've got the track record and clearly mean what they say. Inevitable. Good man, Kenny. A lot of support for Kenny in the comments. If you have time, can Kenny talk about Britain First and UKIP and how Homeland differs from these two parties and why people should choose Homeland over them and how Homeland can work alongside? So I'm not trying to catch you, Kenny. We're going to go through the comments and maybe come back to that one. Homeland member.
I'm happy to answer any question, Niall. I'm happy to answer that one, but it did make me chuckle.
Right, okay, so we'll go through some of the comments and we'll get back to that one. Homeland forever. Homeland party is the way forward. This is the way. Where does Homeland stand on a wealth tax? Homeland member for 10 months, recently turned activist in East England. Shout out to Kenny. So we'll go back to, I mean, what does differentiate? Because we've seen over the last, I think it was at the Tommy Robinson rally, this Nick Tinconi, he went sort of viral for this clip that he's at this Tommy Robinson rally. And, you know, of course, that would have seen a big surge towards UKIP. But what is the sort of differentiation between the two? And can we maybe see an amalgamation? We're seeing like a lot of these smaller parties that are thinking about amalgamating and becoming a sort of bigger force. I think you probably can stand alone, but what does differ for Homeland and UKIP and Britain First?
Yeah, so we hear a lot people telling us that we've got to unite the right and bring all these small parties together. And quite frankly, now that's utter nonsense. There's a good reason why most of these parties go it alone, because they're self-serving. They fund and finance people's lifestyles. I don't want to be too disparaging, but the difference between Homeland and everybody else is that we are genuine nationalists. We understand who the English, the Scottish, the Welsh, the Northern Irish, the British are. We understand that, and we're not afraid to say it. These other two parties that have been mentioned stand for British values. They won't stand by ethnicity. In fact, I believe UKIP openly condemned genuine nationalism not long ago. And yet, both of these groups now are both chanting remigration months after we popularized that expression. And all they're doing for me is jumping onto what they believe will be the gravy train.
Yeah.
Now, we have got a party with no paid members, no paid officials. We desperately need to get
I'll stop you there as well. It comes. I mean, I see Steve Laws in particular. You actually lose business, you lose work. There seems to be a cost attached to joining Homeland at some, at some sort of in some way or form. It's a shame that that's the case in our society these days. But I think. The fact that people are going to Homeland, despite whatever personal cost to them is, sort of lays credence to your message, no?
Yeah, I mean, the amount of people that lose their jobs is very few and far between. And Steve will be the first to admit that some of his rhetoric has been a bit strong and makes it uncomfortable for employers. Most people don't fall into that bracket. There've been very, very few. I mean, we've got lots of members who are out in the open and get on fine, and some of them are incentive jobs. But we don't tell people you have to dox yourself or anything like that. If somebody joins Homeland Party and then doesn't want to tell another living soul, that's what happens. So the people shouldn't worry on that. But you've hit up on a good point for me there, and comes back to what Alistair was saying about reform. They're driven by money. Same as these other two organisations you were talking about there. We've got no money. Everything we do, my treasurers are probably the most hardest working treasurers in the whole of the UK, because they make every penny, stretch and last. And stuff we do for the little income we get is absolutely incredible. We've got more councillors than all the other parties put together. None of our branches pay for their leaflets. None of them pay for the banners. The amount of work we do, we have been quite shy, I think, at times asking for donations. And I'm trying to tell our guys, stop being embarrassed about asking for money. That's how we afforded the battery operated power washer that helped the work in Yorkshire there, removing that graffiti. But Reform have got themselves in an incredible position. They're basically ahead in lots of the polls. And what they've done today is hugely embarrassing. It shows to me that they're not a serious outfit, because they can't even work together. If you read Rupert Lowe's statement, where they said, he was being ostracized, left out of things, they weren't responding. that's not a serious outfit. I work with lots of people who don't like me, and other guys who think I'm a grumpy sod. But we can have arguments, people, and crack on, but we all know what the big picture is. We have to work together and be successful. There's no egos, and reform will continue. Alistair's right. This reform will not perish today. They will continue on. Farage owns the reform brand. It's still there. They can keep that going because he has a massive reputation. I think, Alistair, I joined in the back room when you were talking about nobody in Glasgow will know Rupert Lowe. I don't quite think that's true, but you're right. Farage,
not nobody, but certainly,
yeah, his star is 4 or 5 times higher than Rupert Lowe's. Yes, no doubt about it. But there are too many people who have invested time and effort and energy into reform who feel absolutely betrayed. And they've been talking about this for months. We backed reform because they were going to be the party tough on immigration. And at every opportunity, Farage has had to talk about it. Whenever, in particular, he's talking to a mainstream media personality or somebody else in the establishment, he has cut something terrible. He has betrayed the people who have put that effort in. And, he's seriously misjudged things. He's allowed a chairman to come into the party and buy his position. And people noticed straight away there was a sea change in how they were working in the regions and dealing
Massively.
with people, purging people. They're not the party that was there pre-general election. And every day it's just getting worse. And people are turning around and saying, yeah, we love what Homeland's saying, but you're not going to get success. And we keep hearing this, how many candidates are you going to stand in 2029? The honest answer is, I don't know yet because it's only 2025. I didn't think tonight we'd add another 200 members to our membership. A lot can change in politics in a recent time, and it very much depends on who gets on board, who's prepared to put the effort in, who's prepared to work, and that's the Homeland Party ethic. We're not here to serve as anybody else's ego. We want people to join us and make us strong. We'll start at the ground level, at the community level, but if we can build our branches up, we will fight elections in 2029, the parliamentary seats 2029. But I'm not going to make wild promises. What I'm going to do and put my effort in is getting our people working, because only we can change things. For far too long, we've had leaders in this country who tell us one thing and do another. We want to change that, put ordinary, working class, normal people into positions of authority, get people in your communities, end the domination of the liberal progressives, and actually have people who care about their community, who care about the places where they live and where they work. And they want to see these places thrive and be successful. And I don't think the majority of politicians are like that now. We know what happened when Blair introduced this system where you needed a national nominating officer and stuff like that. All the characters and mavericks went from politics because the party apparatniks at the top removed all these challenging people, the ones who would sometimes upset the apple cart in parties. They've also got this policy, and it's always kind of happened where somebody from London will be given a safe seat in the West Midlands, or somebody is given another one miles away from the building, where they've got no connection. Isn't Hamza Youssef lives in Dundee but had a Glasgow seat?
Yeah, exactly.
What's that all about? He shouldn't be a politician anyway. He doesn't belong here. But you in my belief system, you should be invested in the place where you belong and where do you live. I'm now down in Worcestershire, but I want what's best here, and I help and support the local community here. I've all different things, because I want to live in a community that I'm proud of. And if you're standing in seats where they don't even know the people, they can't even identify with their problems, I think that leads to issues, and that is a great problem. Rupert Lowe is a great example. He is so passionate about Great Yarmouth. It tells in everything he does. I was speaking to somebody recently who said, my favourite Rupert Lowe act was in the first few weeks of his becoming an MP. He got the public toilets opened again in Great Yarmouth. Now, people say that, for me,
I know.
as somebody
It's
who's
so
got
simple a
3
thing,
kids,
isn't it?
yeah, having 3 kids, you need public toilets open in your town centres, don't you? My goodness, you've taken one to the toilet, and then 2 minutes later, the next one
Yep.
wants to go, and you're already 10 minutes away from there. So things like that, because he lives there, he knows what the local community wants, he knows what it needs, and he fights and gets it done. You only get that when you've got investment in your local community, and that's what Homeland is. Our slogan is family, community, Homeland. Everything can be traced back to your family, looking after them, making life better for them, then your wider community, and then the whole Homeland.
I think the finest revenge that Rupert Lowe could get would be to join the Homeland Party,
yes,
and be getting tens of thousands of pounds worth of the money that's given to, what do they call that money? That politicians are entitled to, short money. That would come to Homeland. That would upset the apple cart. However, whether he's mentally there yet, I don't know. But that would be a funny turn up for the books.
Wouldn't it be amazing if we had an MP already?
Well, this is the thing. If you did, I mean, it would just take you such a different, in such a huge acceleration. But I think the way that you're moving, it takes me back to the Scottish Family Party days, where we describe it as sort of climbing Everest. You know what I mean? It can't be done in just one day, and it's not going to happen. It's going to happen over the course of 5 to 10, 15 years before you get to the top. But it's important to start climbing now. If you don't start climbing, then no one's ever going to get there. So I'm encouraged to hear that you are championing this. All your members are championing this, and they're starting for the community up. And that's where it really does. That's where everything starts. Is protecting your community, and making it, enriching it, making it better. So, it's for me, the conversation with reform, it seems to have dragged the sort of window across towards the right wing of politics, and from now we've got reform, and they seem to be on the left of the right, if you know what I mean. We've got yourselves, Homeland, Reform, and we can toss UKIP and Britain First in there as well. But the more the sort of the window is moved to the right, the more you're going to get viewed, the more your party's going to come up. Because I think and this won't be the last thing that happens in Reform, is it? This Rupert Lowe sort of exile. This won't be the last thing. There'll be other things that sort of discourage it. I mean, originally it was their sort of, whoa, we don't want anything to do with Tommy Robinson chat. And that really put a lot of people off immediately. When he was doing exactly what you're sort of encouraging people to do, they're getting involved in the community. And Tommy Robinson started with combating the grooming gangs that were happening, which are still happening. So it's the same sort of thing where you can't really turn your back away from this issue. It's just, it won't be the last. I mean, Rupert Lowe won't be the last thing that happens in Reform. There'll be other things that come out. So I can imagine every sort of bump that they incur, Homeland will see a bump. They'll see the benefits of this bump.
Sorry, Reform has had one or two self-inflicted philosophical issues as well. Like, what is Reform's attitude to Britain at war and supporting foreign wars? And that's why they're in trouble at the moment as well, because of all this Ukraine thing. I mean, they came straight out, Tice did anyway, for the Ukraine for supporting Ukraine. Well, from a British nationalist perspective, was that the right move to make? But that wouldn't even have occurred to him. It was just a kind of a natural prejudice that he had against Putin or whatever. And then you've got the whole Gaza-Israel thing as well. What's Britain's proper approach to that as a foreign conflict? And I mean, I wouldn't even like to begin to think where all that lot lie as far as that's concerned. Like, there's no fundamentals there. So when something like Trump comes along and he says we're no longer going to support Ukraine, after Farage and Tice and so on have been essentially supporting, well, Tice anyway, supporting Ukraine, it's like these are major issues. Like, what's their attitude to British foreign policy and Britain getting involved in war? And they're just all over the place. And that's probably, that confusion has contributed to where they are at the moment on this particular matter, because it's all, you know, that Farage, Tice, Trump, Ukraine relationship that's in the mix there.
Yeah,
so I don't know what Homeland's point of view on that sort of thing is. You don't need to answer if you don't want, but
yeah,
I mean,
no.
you can't.
There's no question we're scared of Alistair at all. We answer everything, but I think you hit perfectly there. There's no core beliefs with Farage and Tice. You know, I classify them as system tools. We're genuine nationalists. We oppose foreign conflicts. We don't want to be involved. We're like Trump. We want the fighting to stop in the Middle East. We want the fighting to stop in Ukraine as well. And we shouldn't have anything to do with continuing these conflicts. You know, they're not our battles, but we don't want these people to die anywhere in the world. You know, it's ridiculous. And I think one thing you mentioned as well, and was about the ability for Homeland Party to hold reform's feet to the fire. When we started promoting remigration and talking about it, nobody else was talking about it. And we've continued and pushed, and then you're getting guys like Matt Goodwin talking about it, and other people. You know, we literally have forced the word remigration into the public and political arena. The same as Homeland. Nobody in British politics used the word Homeland until we introduced it as our party name. You know, you guys have been involved for long enough. You know what the crack is. Homeland is now how people refer to Britain, our nation, our country, our land. Everybody says it's Homeland now. So we've shifted the Overton window massively, despite their size, because we're sensible, because we're measured, and frankly, because we're honest. You know, so we've taken a word that was completely alien to people in this country, and now this April we are holding a big remigration conference in the East Midlands, where we have got Ranu Camus, one of the greatest literary figures in the whole of France, well known throughout Europe. He's the man who coined the phrase "the Great Replacement." He's coming to speak in England, very rare occurrence, fantastic figure. And we've got Lena Cotre, an MP for the AFD, who got re-elected with a massive big swing. She's got a 16% gap on her rival.
Wow.
Because she was telling people she was actually, I think they're called Cobitans or something like that, little security devices that she was issuing free of charge to women who were fearing for their lives and for being raped by immigrants. So she fought her election on women's safety and on remigration, and got re-elected with a bigger vote than she had previously. Remigration is sweeping Europe. There's women voting for it. There's youngsters voting for it now, because they're the people who are most effective. They see what is happening in the country and they fear for the future. I'm sick to death of speaking to young guys who say, can't afford to leave my parents' house, can't afford for me and my girlfriend to start a family. You know, they're living in the bedroom that they were he's had as a kid himself, and it's sometimes their wives, not just their girlfriends. They can't see themselves owning a house. They don't see themselves, even when they have a job, and both of them, husband and wife, a job. They can't buy a house. They can't get doctors, they can't get dentists. These are things that are affected by mass immigration, and we want to give our youth a future. And the more we can be sensible and promote and tell people what it's all about, and set a good example with community politics. And I've got to say, Niall, you are a community politics animal. The work you do with the transgender stuff, the drug sectors things, that is pure community politics. I
even
want
if I
guys
don't,
like
even
you
if I don't know
party.
it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what changes lives. That's what changes communities. And I really believe what we've done in the Homeland Party, and I'm going to give a shout out right now, if you'll allow me, to all the members who've been on board with the Homeland Party already. You're the people that have made Homeland what it is today, and why we continue to say the effort you put in on a day-to-day basis up and down the country in your local communities, being brave, being courageous, and putting energy into this struggle. You're the reason why this party is becoming a success, and it's not.
Well, I mean, fantastic sort of sentiments there. It's the people who are really, I mean, you touched upon the social housing aspect, and I see this being a sort of growing problem in the future, as young people just saying that there's no opportunity to have their own house, to own their own house, which again, it sort of dovetails into the fact that we've got a declining population, Kenny. I truly believe that if you've got a home of your own that's it's paid for, it's yours, it's, a man's home is his castle type thing, where you can be encouraged to have more kids because you've got that stability there. And I sort of champion this policy of from school age. We're saying, maybe when you're 18, you have the opportunity to build your own house. Would Homeland be open to sort of radical policies like this that will sort of turbocharge the youth into action here? Where I mean, what a great sort of policy that is. Vote for the Homeland Party, and we will make sure that you can build your own house and in your own image. You know what I mean? I mean, we've got so much creative minds here in Scotland. We've got a skill shortage. We've got all these different aspects that having a house would solve. And I think that a lot of it comes down to a lot of the negative sentiment, a lot of the blackpilling that people have is the sort of financial implications of ever maybe not ever owning a house. So I think it's maybe one thing that you think about, Kenny, as a housing policy, something that you could get, the youth could get behind. You know what I mean? Because again, the dream of owning one's house is slipping away for the youth of Britain. It really is.
The aim of having somewhere to live in, let alone owning it, is slipping away for a lot of young people. That's why they're still living with their parents, because they can't afford the atrocious levels of rent.
Well, I mean, on you go, Kenny. If you want to
say, one of the grimmest things for me when is reading a young man or a young woman who's saying that they can't afford to have kids. That for me is one of the most horrific things that I ever come across. And that a lot of the time is often as people who have good homes. But if you throw that on top of the people who can't afford housing at the moment, there's a reason why we've got a declining birth rate and population. People live in communities that they're not proud of, that they're terrified to go out and roam at night. Some of them during the day as well. I've met people in London who say, I come home from work and I race into the house because I don't want to be caught out on the street in that short walk from my car to my home, or from the tube station to my home. I run home. That's the thing. So yeah, we're very much about radical politics, about doing things. I think our immigration and remigration policy was incredibly innovative. The housing policy we've already produced. I want to be in a situation a bit like Orban, where we are giving young people opportunities to have families and get discounts off their mortgage. That would be the key one for me. Have 4 kids, and every time you have a kid, we'll take 25% off your mortgage, and we'll have big families again. We'll have people, but I'll tell you, we will not change that, and that can't be implemented until we start remigration, because it won't be our people taking advantage of schemes like that. It'll be the immigrant population. So if we want to restore the indigenous population in this country, that's something we can only introduce, after remigration's in process. Or we've done away with a horrific equality legislation that exists in this country. That it's not about equality; it's about making our people second class in our own country.
That's right, and also the doing away with the asylum policy as well, because so long as we're signed up to this the UN Convention, well, technically, so long as we're signed up, we're going to have all these immigrants coming in claiming asylum. Now, what happens is if you get given refugee status, if your claim is accepted and you get given refugee status, then you automatically get all the benefits of being a British citizen. And there's a couple of paragraphs in the UN Convention of Refugees which state that a refugee, once accepted, has to be treated as an equal citizen. So all these refugees that Labour are, all these asylum seekers that Labour are rushing through and making refugees, they are all entitled to social housing, and they're all entitled to housing benefit. They're not entitled to social housing while they're an asylum seeker, while their claim is being processed. But once they become a refugee, they're entitled to get a council house. And so that's just massive numbers of people, tens of thousands of people every year becoming eligible for the houses that we and our children should be eligible for. And if you're like the Scottish Socialists and the Greens and the Labour and the SNP, they go, oh, we're not building enough houses. Goodness sake, there's not enough green space or brown space in the blooming Scotland to build enough houses to house the levels of people who are coming in and becoming eligible for one. Nor should we even try.
It's not just the housing. You put on top of that the pressure on GPs, on dentists, on schools, and then you talk about the infrastructure as well. The bigger strain on sewage and all these different things on demand on electricity. There are absolutely no positives to mass immigration. Everything's detrimental. It drives down wages, conditions. It makes workplaces more dangerous too. You go into some of these places and they can't even speak English. It really is horrific. And when I see some of our people, the three of us have got experience of Glasgow. We know how some people are in dire poverty, and yet these people come off the boat, tear up their papers before they beach. And they're getting doctors coming to the place. They're getting bloody fitness coaches coming. They're being given art classes. They're getting 3 meals a day. They're given a phone. They're given clothing. They're given Wi-Fi. They're even given mobile phone contracts. It is absolutely disgusting. Our own people are ignored and left behind. And we've all seen it. I've lived in places like Muirhouse and Motherwell, been in the south side of Glasgow. I know how real people live, and they don't get half the benefits these people do. And it disgusts me. You look after your own first.
So I mean, you're telling me in the background that you're so close to 1,000 members, right? We're closing in on 1,000 members, and I just wanted to say that whoever it is in Homeland that's putting it, the meme warfare section of Homeland is absolutely fantastic. I've been collecting them in the background as we've been speaking, but we've got things like this. Remigration's inevitable. We've got the Chad there. You're hereby formally invited to join Homeland. You've got Pepe the Frog. Seeing it over there. You've got the crystal ball. The meme warfare section is actually lit when it comes to Homeland. It really is. And we've got the classic. And then you've got this wee alligator. If only you knew how good things are going to be, because we've got such we've got such a negative outlook now, because everything seems to spiral out of control. Our country is just going down the tubes, but it's important to just be sort of white-pilled on this, that it can only really get better. I mean, how far can we go down the tubes before things get better? So I have to commend the meme warfare that Homeland's putting out there. It's actually fantastic. And it'll fill people with optimism, and I think optimism is something that's sorely missed. This is a thing that everyone joined Reform in the first place with this optimism, and slowly but surely it seems like this optimism is being chipped at. You know, the backing off of Tommy Robinson, the exile of Rupert Lowe. What's next? You know, I mean, slowly but surely this optimism in Reform is fading away. But it's important to maintain the optimism, and your meme warfare department is doing absolutely fantastic work, Kenny. So whoever it is that's putting this stuff out, just give them a pat on the back, I suppose. Yeah, I know they're not getting paid anything, but this again, this is it's incredible that nobody's getting paid for this. Nobody's getting paid for this at all. This is all coming off the back of people that just want their country to be better.
Yeah, we've got a whole army of people behind the scenes now, and our media team is growing all the time. We've done a wee bit of restructuring there in December and January, created additional departments. So we've got a whole host of people that do that on a volunteer basis. There's even people who are party members chucking stuff our way as well. So the army of Homelanders is growing. They do incredible stuff. But yeah, we work very hard on basically distancing ourselves from the negative Nancy's and the doom posters, because if you believe you're going to lose, you've lost already. Nobody.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be a sports coach. You do not send your team out to the field telling them that they've lost already. They will never win. You tell them, even if there's a manager or a coach, you know they're getting humped. You tell them they're the best in the world and we're gonna win. But I genuinely believe that if we put the effort in, look at the history of our nation. Look at what we have done as a people throughout the ages. British people are the best when our back's against the wall, when people don't believe in us. We pull victory after victory out of the bag. And this will happen now. The positivity and the enthusiasm from the Homelanders is infectious, and it's incredible. And it's born because when we get together, we make a difference. We do the changes, and people are seeing positive results. And the problem is, I think, when people don't get involved in community politics and don't get in activism, all they feed in is the negativity they get from the online world, where all these people do is they share the slop about bad news story here, bad news story there, and they don't actually see the changes you can make in the real world by being active and engaged in the real world. I'm sometimes a bit harsh on my comments on social media at people who annoy me with some of these comments about, oh, you'll never win. And I go, well, you'll never leave your bloody bedroom. Get out and speak to the real world and see that it is possible to win. And that's it. I surround myself with capable people and positive people. I want to find out whether people are pint half full rather than half empty, because these are the people that change the world.
I have to admit, the meme warfare department, they're working overtime tonight. They're working overtime tonight, Kerry.
That's me when I was younger.
I mean, it's actually there seems to be we're reaching a point where Homeland does seem to be getting more and more traction, aren't we? We're seeing it in the media. We're seeing it live right now. This is happening as we speak, guys. I'm collecting these images that are posted minutes ago. So we're getting some just incredible stuff. We've got some more questions for you. Ask Kenny if we'd start a Homeland Discord. A good platform. I mean, this is the thing where people need to connect with other people that think like them and that want to make a difference. So I think it might be maybe quite prudent to start a Discord, and just start talking with people and giving people a community, even if it is online. I sometimes talk about how the advent of the internet sort of destroyed actual tangible communities. It's one of these things where we stopped going to the churches, we stopped going to the community halls, we stopped going to the after school clubs and all this different things, and it's all migrated online. So maybe there is a wee bit of community sort of building you could do online.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that wherever there is a social media platform, we should be on it interacting. Although I am slightly cautious of Discord, because I know in the past that they have worked against nationalists and leaked information. That so I'm not a big social media guy. I'm constantly asking guys what does this mean, what and stuff like that. But yeah, if we want to be the party in power, if we want to have an impact on community, we've got to be where people are. That's why we need to be on X, and why we need to be on Facebook and all these places. So yeah, I encourage, if people want to set up communities, they should be. And we are full of positivity. Spread the word wherever you are. Do it in your workplace if you're confident enough to do it. Do it in your family, when you family gatherings. Do it in your sports club, down your pub, in the cafe. On social media. Yeah, if we don't spread the word, people won't know we're here.
I'm just collecting some more images. They just keep coming in, Kenny. I don't know what it is, but they just keep coming in. I've got too many images in the bank now. We'll get another one up. There's this. People are really, really upset with Rupert Lowe leaving, it seems. Because he spoke like a Homeland member, really. So we're seeing this, Nigel, you're removing the wrong people.
That is brilliant.
It's pretty good, isn't it? So again, whoever it is that's making these, and again, we just know that nobody's getting paid for this. They're doing it off their own back. We've got Don't Care, still voting Homeland.
That's one of my favourites. I don't know which the team made that, but that's one of my favourites. Yeah.
I mean, Pepe the Frog is usable time and time and time again. Toulouse Empire Homeland's clean community-focused politics is what drew me to the party. I'm not interested in being surrounded by cranks. I just want a county and community, a country and a community to be proud of, and that I feel at home in. I mean, you can't really have said it any better than that. And I'm sure that's what you want.
Yes, 100%. I think, I touched on it earlier. I was somebody who's been involved in all my adult life in nationalist politics, and I'll be very honest. There was lots of occasions when you turn up things and you're saying, "I hope so and so doesn't turn up," or "Oh my goodness, look who's here." Politics generally is full of cranks and weird. Alistair has been to election counts in Glasgow many times, and we know the Labour Party, the SNP, the Lib Dem Greens, they are filled with cranks and weirdos. There's more so, but when it's in your own team, you do feel a little bit demoralised at times, and so I really, in the last 4 or 5 years, have worked very hard to distance myself from the cranks and weirdos, because I believe that nationalism has got the policies, the people first policies that most people want, that most people be desire in their heart of hearts, but they're turned off by the public image of nationalism, the stereotype of nationalism, and what the mainstream media have force-fed them for decades. And some of it is justified. And we tolerate sometimes people who call themselves nationalists just because they say they're nationalists and we're desperate for support. Whereas I take a different view, and I would rather tell these people to clear off and leave nationalism to the people who are actual genuine nationalists, because I don't believe these antisocial types would have any place in our authority if, or when we succeed, because their behaviour wouldn't be tolerated under our government. If you want to succeed and win, you have to promote something positive and sensible and beneficial. And quite frankly, there are too many cranks and weirdos who don't represent the movement well. So I think that's another thing that I'm constantly meeting people who've joined the Homeland Party. They said, finally, I've had these views for years, but finally I've just found a party that represents them and does it in a normal and sensible way. Like you say, guys, I can come here and my missus and my mum and dad are not warning me off it, because they've watched the videos, they've seen the material we put out, and they go, that's good, that's and that's the difference for you.
So I think I don't want to take too much of your time, Kenny. I know you'll be probably eyes on the ticker, waiting for that 1,000 number to hit.
They were telling me if what was it now at 11:06 that we were 8 members away from 1,000. So I'm pretty sure that we must have passed that by now, but nobody's telling me.
So we've got we're going to go for another 10 minutes. We're not going to take too much of Kenny's time. He's a busy man, and we've all got stuff to do. But if you've got any more questions for Kenny, just get them in the next 10 minutes, and we'll batter him with questions. He's up for it. So ask Kenny where in Muirhouse that he stayed. He grew up in the Timbers. I'm not even sure what the Timbers is, but I'm sure you know what it is.
Yeah, the houses. But it was that long ago, 1991. I don't even remember the name of the street, but it was right at the top of the hill, and in one. I honestly can't remember the name of the street. It was that's plinking heck more than 30 years ago.
Right, and Matthew wanted another question. Where does Homeland stand on a wealth tax, particularly for non-nationals? Website talks about homes. What about office buildings and land, etc.? So it might be a bit a complex question there, but
yeah, massive big questions. What we do with our economic policy is put our own people first. So if you look at what we're talking about at immigration and remigration, we are putting our people first and stopping people from abroad accumulating wealth to this country. But what we don't want to do with our economic policy is to prevent people being a financial success. We're not crazy communists. We're not excessive capitalists. We want entrepreneurs to succeed. That's what's made this country great. We're Scots guys. We invented most of the modern world. But sadly, a lot of these great Scots inventors had to go to places like America and England to realize their intelligence and their dreams. I want to be able to change that with the Homeland Party, so that wherever you live in the British Isles, you can make success and prosper. You can be innovative and inventive and make this nation great again. That's what should drive us economically. We shouldn't be stuck to any liberal, progressive, or capitalist ideology. Nationalism puts our people first and allows them to thrive. And we will have remigration centres in all the big towns.
Steve Laws seems to be on the Homeland. He's absolutely on it this evening, and he's saying to Rupert Lowe, we're just waiting on your membership, Rupert Lowe. You don't want to miss a 3-digit card, and I think a 3-digit card will be out of the. It's not going to be available for much longer, Kenny. I hope you can give us an update on the number.
A few minutes. I've just messaged the admin team. Give me an update, please. Yeah, I think he's going to miss that boat. Thumbs up! 1,000 members.
Oh, well done, Kenny.
Incredible. 4 figures.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you. So yeah, I'm telling 1,006. Brilliant. So yeah, the guys. It's funny. There's whole new culture developing around the Homeland Party. People proudly carry their cards in their wallet, and when they meet up at pubs and events, they're all whipping them out to see who's got the lowest number. We call it Homeland Party. So and it's quite funny. I'm not allowed to play apparently because I've got card number 1, but
Oh well.
the rest have they have real fun with that. Yeah.
Well, I'm
the
glad
person that got card
me and
1000
Alistair
will
could be
be
here for that.
lucky.
Yes,
Sorry, what
well,
was that?
Yes.
Sorry, I think one of the guys in our team said we will send that person with card 1000 a free members badge just as a wee memento of being number 1000.
There you go. That would be a good idea.
So someone's asking here that I think it might be actually a good sort of exercise, Kenny, but if you break down all your policies and beliefs and have them published in a video format or produce long videos and make clips. I think your message is obviously it's getting out there, even without you making sort of long form videos or anything like that. It's getting out there anyway. But have you thought about doing some sort of large breakdowns of Homeland, what you actually mean, like a sort of video department? And I'm sure, I mean, your main warfare department is absolutely firing on all cylinders. So I think if they were sort of to turn their eye upon video content as well, you could really make a sort of a stronger message, especially with this TikTok generation, where videos that can be put on TikTok. I mean, Alistair's TikTok, the Force for Good TikTok's going fantastic, 100,000 views on like all these different videos and stuff. So I think short snippets would really go quite far with your party.
Yeah, it is. For me, one of the toughest things that we have that we've got a very good media team. We've got our departments are growing. We actually do have a video team. We've got a graphics team, video team. There's a writers team, there's the website team, and then we've got our guys who post to social media and the website. So we've got a good bit of infrastructure. We're putting process in place to help them. We're developing at the moment an activist reporting portal, so we don't make sure we don't miss out some of the stories. We have actually produced one of the best videos we produced was our Nationalism Explained video, where we had different accents from around the UK all speaking on it. But I'll be honest with you, the biggest problem is that despite how big our team is, and it's bigger than anything we had in the BNP, is that we just don't have enough people. We need more people to volunteer, more people to help out, because all our guys and our women, I keep saying guys generally, but men and women, are working full time. Like I do a 40-hour week. And then I probably put another 40 hours into the Homeland Party, and we've got lots of people like the same. Lots of people are juggling lots of things. So it comes down to a time factor. We've got something at the moment called the Oak, which is an initiative we're asking people to donate £15 a month into, and then we'll start hiring people full time. Once we can pay a full time wage and pay it, we don't have a Sia Youssef with his whatever £800,000 donations. We have to do this off the sweat of our own brows. So our team do work incredibly hard. We've actually got 2 days of media training for some of our team next week on Tuesday and Wednesday to develop that. And TikTok is one of the areas that we're particularly going to be focusing on Tuesday and Wednesday. Because we understand, how powerful social media is in driving these things. Look at the influence, for example, Elon Musk had. When he started talking about remigration and the AFD, it's a powerful media. And I'm going to be honest, I'm not quite a Luddite, but I'm not the most savvy. Steve Laws kills it, week in, week out. But we've got lots of young, talented people who are starting to do the same and developing. So I think what you'll see over the next while is us getting stronger and stronger on that. We do, like I say, we like giving the opportunities for people to lead and be our department heads at the moment are putting a lot of effort into interviewing and speaking with these people who have been referred to their departments, the admin, media, treasury, the political team. We've got all sorts of departments. So our guys, once they get a referral from the regions or the branches, they speak these guys, find out what skills they've got, see how they can implement them, give them jobs, tasks. Some work out, some don't. But I think you'll see even more coming out of the Homeland Party, and I imagine this. was like 150 new members tonight or something roughly like that already. Hopefully from that batch of 150, we'll find another 10, 12 gems who will strengthen us and bring us on again. So that's what it's all about for me. I want to bring people on and get them working for nationalism as volunteers. Hopefully we'll be able to pay people in future, but right now we're doing incredible with what, the small number of people we have, the very small, donations we have. We're probably the poorest political party on the sphere. When you see some of the figures that the likes of Britain First and UKIP have been taking in, or what Tommy Robinson's been bringing in, if we were getting we were at an event a couple of weeks ago in London, some kind of it was the ARC after party, and we were told that they put 45 grand behind the bar.
That's crazy.
And I was thinking, Christ, if we had 28 grand in there, we could pay somebody a decent wage of full time for a year. Imagine the work that could be achieved from employing somebody for a full year.
Yeah.
Compared to one night pissing it up against the wall.
I know.
It beggars belief.
I'll interject there because Alistair needs to go. But Alistair, I'm glad you could be here for this moment. I'm sure it's we might be thinking about this time in 10 years' time. That's we were here when they hit 1,000 members.
Well,
it's quite possible.
I wish Kenny all the best with his party, although, as I say, I'm not a member of Homeland, nor am a member of Reform, and the Force for Good as such doesn't support any particular political party. I feel I do have to say that. But certainly I'll be watching Kenny and his colleagues' progress with interest, and no doubt paths will cross again. And I know that Kenny's people will be interested, certainly in the book that I'm writing, which is going to be called Protect Our Country, Policies to Secure Our Borders, Volume 2 of a big book for the Union. That's going to be coming out March or April. April, really, the way things are going at the moment. And it's some effort, I have to say. It's been incredibly depressing to research it, but also it's been quite good to try to figure out solutions to the absolute state of our immigration law, which is really, really awful. And what I'm hoping to do with the book is to change the paradigm, as I say, to change the way that we look on the whole mass immigration invasion. And as we talk about defunding the invasion migration sector, which is the lawyers and the NGOs and the so-called charities, and basically turning the way we understand it, the way we understand immigration, and especially asylum, which is the biggest fraud going, and really bringing in a radical rethinking of the whole thing. And the way it's going, people in Reform, people in Homeland, patriots waking up everywhere, young people getting disenchanted. The market is there intellectually for an absolute change in direction for our nation politically, and Kenny and his colleagues are at the heart of that. I wish them the very best. You are too, Niall, in your own way. I wish you the very best with your political work, which you're doing all the time. As Kenny said, you're essentially a community activist. You've done some really good work recently. I'd urge people to follow your site, the Niall Fraser Twitter. And if you want to follow A Force for Good as well,
I've got
Twitter,
that banner up there. I was
go.
just about to say, if you're a Homeland member, if you're a supporter of Homeland, then you can't go very wrong in following Alistair's work. There's a weekly show on a Wednesday night, 7 p.m. sharp. The guy is the most punctual person that you'll ever meet in your entire life. But 7 p.m. on a Wednesday night, he does a weekly show. And you can't really go wrong by watching the show. So that's a plug for Alistair, and we thank you for being here, Alistair, as well. And we might be looking back on this time and saying, where were you when Homeland hit 1,000 members? We were here with the chairman himself. So again, I would encourage any sort of new listeners to the show, new watchers of the show, to join, to go after A Force for Good on Twitter, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the show on a Wednesday night. It'll give you an hour, and you're coming out with new information all the time, Alistair. You're very researched. I mean, we see the filing cabinets behind you there. Very organized.
That's only some of them. Believe me, I've got detailed files all over the place. That's only like 3 of them. I've got 17 of them.
Well, once again,
before we
thanks.
lose Alistair, can I ask
Okay.
you a question? Will the book be finished before April the 26th? Because if it's ready by then, we'd be very happy to have a stall for you at the big remigration conference.
Well, that certainly gives me a date to shoot for. I'm hoping over this period of Lent to be able to finish it intellectually. Just depends how fast our graphic designer can turn it around, but possibly we can stay in touch about that. But I'd love to cooperate with you on something with that anyway.
Fantastic.
Well, once again, you can follow Alistair and his great work over at A Force for Good at UK A Force for Good. Weekly show on a Wednesday night. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. But once again, I'll see what anyway. Sort of closing thoughts before you fire away.
Nope, that's it. Just thanks for having me on. Nice to see you again, Kenny, and best British wishes to you all.
Right.
Good night.
Thanks, Alistair. So that was Alistair McConaughey, A Force for Good, and I'm sure we will be looking back on this time, Kenny. It's an interesting time we live in now, and I think Rupert Lowe's sort of treatment in reform. I mean, it really couldn't have come at a better time. We've got another image here. I mean, the Mean Warfare Department's just working overtime. It really is. The POV you're getting sent back. There's a remigration centre there, and I'm sure it'll be operated with a private industry as well. I really, I think what you said about that, something just clicked in my brain when you said that, Kenny. It never occurred to me that private enterprise could enter the remigration space, the deportation space. It never even occurred to me. So I thought it's genius, but you know. And if you're having someone at this remigration conference, maybe we can speak about that after this, but if you're having someone at the remigration conference that's talking about this private enterprise entering this space, I think it's very, very exciting, if I'm honest. Because, you know, government work, government departments, everything that government does is so sluggish. You know, it never gets done. It's a, you know, a big juggernaut of a machine to get going. So I think private enterprise is probably the way to go.
Yeah, Lena Kotra, who's coming over from Germany, the FD MP, has said she is an absolutely extraordinary woman, a tour de force. She is the AFD's spokesperson on remigration, and she's the person driving this in Germany at the moment. So yeah, we definitely have somebody who's gonna give quite a dynamic speech at the conference. And you know, this is one of the things she talks about. You know, if you're having remigration centers where they're dealing with the logistics, you know, people don't think, but you're going to need catering companies. Who's going to provide food and stuff for these people before they go? You know, who's going to transport them? Who's going to look after them all sorts of ways? You're going to be people who are going to have to, you know, sell their property, transfer their monies abroad. You know, there's all sorts of things. You know, you know. If you think of what somebody has to do for packing up and leaving and relocating, there's opportunities all over the place. You know, it's a tough enough to, you know, to buy a new house and move area, you know, for yourself locally. You know, that gets magnified if you're going to a different country. So there's massive opportunities. And again, the thing with remigration and with the Homeland Party philosophy is, we want to make this as smooth and as easy for everybody as possible, so that, you know, nobody is traumatized by the experience. I want these people excited about the prospect of going back to their homeland and creating a new life for themselves, where they'll be more comfortable and being a success in these countries. You know, I think, you know, and
sorry, there's a lot to be said about that as well, because I mean, we talk about like the sort of the European brain drain, the US brain drain, the Western world is a brain drain, and the people that are coming over here are supposed, you know, they're the sort of brightest in their field and the brightest in their countries. They're that are coming here in the first place. So actually, it's a massive detriment to these countries losing these bright people, losing these movers and shakers in their own country, whereas they could be developing and improving their own countries, and we could all get along better as a whole entire planet. You know, it makes perfect sense. And this was always going to happen, isn't it, Kenny? It's always going to happen that if you've got this sort of this intellectual drain on other countries, they are going to detriment to, you know, they're at a huge detriment. So how can they ever improve if we are if they're not improving their own countries, and they're the best people are also always being siphoned off by the West?
Yeah, if a lot of these people that come here, we're told, are doctors and engineers. That's plainly not true.
That's a meme in itself. I mean, the meme warfare department's already done that one. You know, we've seen too many memes on that.
So you know, but you're 100% right. There are people with agency and energy that are demoralized by what they see in their homelands, and they come here to improve their own lives. They are economic migrants. They come here to take advantage of the culture, the system, and the opportunities that we have in this country. But every one of them that leaves their country makes that country worse. If these people had, you know, a little bit of moral fiber, they'd stay and try to improve things in their country. And this, you know, it ties in with what the homeland people do. You know, I see people all the time saying, "Oh, if I given the chance, I'd emigrate to America, or I'd go away there." That's completely the wrong attitude.
Yeah.
If you don't like the situation in your community, play a role in your community. Do something to make it better. Don't just do that stiff upper lip and bitch and moan down the pub. Get out and make a difference. And I really do honestly believe that part of the reason that our nation has fallen so badly in such a short space of time is because people stopped doing what they used to do back in the day. You know, as a kid, I get a clip round the ear from many an adult in my village. I remember going and seeing relatives in Maryhill in Glasgow, and women telling other women off for not cleaning, you know, their landing in the tenement. We used to live in a community where they expected people to play their part and role in the community, and you didn't just look after yourself. You know, I know a lot of people on the right love Maggie Thatcher. I detest the women. You know, and what the Tories did to Scotland in particular. But they did create this change in society that made the society much more selfish. I think we've all got duties and responsibilities as members of communities to play a role, make an impact, and leave the place better than we found it, or at least not to make the place worse than we found it. And that means that you have to be part of a society. And I know, obviously, that's not for everybody. Some people are very introverted and don't like it, but you can still have that nature and not make your society negative.
It was. I mean, it's a brilliant sentiment as well, because you don't ever really hear that from right-wing parties, do you? You it's always self-serving, you first, individual, you know, and it's never really community-orientated, if you see what I'm saying. So it's a brilliant sentiment to have, and you know, we'll probably wrap it up in the next 5 minutes. But you know, I just want to congratulate you on, you know, on reaching the 1,000 mark. I bet that's a big milestone for you guys. I've seen up in the comments it was 800 before, 800 from, you know, a massive growth from the 800s earlier. So you've seen a huge influx, and you know, a lot of it's done to it lays screens to all the hard work that you've done in the past, right? And all the hard work you've done up to leading to get to this stage. For people to see you as an alternative to reform is massive in and of itself. You know, and to be the natural lifeboat. If people are escaping reform and they see Homeland as a lifeboat, you know, a raft that they can jump on, then surely that's a fantastic thing. And so, you know, I'm thinking all the hard work that you've got to this point. If you hadn't have done that, nobody would be viewing you and your party as this sort of the lifeboat on the Titanic, so to speak. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Niall, I'm a grafter. I'm somebody who's pretty forthright. I sometimes rub people up the wrong way because I am, you know, just honest and tell people how I see it. But what I do well is get good people behind me or around me who are as passionate as me, who are as dedicated as me. And there is a massive team who have put a huge amount of effort in for these past 2 years. I mean, we started on the 8th of May, 2023, and it took us until 31st of January 2024 to get registered the expedition. Amazing work was put in there by guys like Ant and Carl and Jerome, you know, people behind the scenes, and that everywhere we go, we give people the opportunity to shine and drive the party forward. I couldn't do this myself, and it has taken incredible amount of hard work. So yeah, it feels nice tonight that things are paying off, but we're not a party that will rest on our laurels.
No.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
I don't get that
night
sense about you. You know, I don't
Yeah.
get that sense at all. You know what I mean? I feel like you're working all the time, and it's not even about the numbers at the end of the day, really.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have 5 members and you'd still be doing what you're doing. You know what I mean? So it's not about the numbers for you. I can just see that, and I can hear it in your voice. You know what I mean?
I guarantee, honestly, that if they've not done it already, one of our team will be going, right, guys, how do we keep the momentum going? Right, guys, how are we getting to 2000? You know, how you know we've got to take advantage of this. They'll be assessing things, they'll be moving things. You know, this you know, we've created a buzz tonight. But for me, it's going to be about let's harness this new talent that's come on board with the party, get them working as quick as possible, getting us winning. I want us to win power. You know, people keep asking, what's the long-term goal for Homeland Party? Bloody easy. We want to win. We want power. We want control of our country. And that might seem to some people unrealistic for a party of now 1,000 people. We see that. We can envisage that.
This is what you're seeing here. It's over the hill. It's on the horizon, and as long as people have got a light at the end of the tunnel, Kenny.
Yes.
Because for the longest time in Britain, we've lived in this this 2-party duopoly. It's where we're in this doom spiral. That you know, it seems like they're the same party and they just swap power every other year. And we should keep going down and down and down and down. And with the advent of reform, we thought that was maybe different.
Yes.
But it just shows
reform have changed things now. I think that, you know, they've helped smash that reliance on the 2-party system. It's been a positive thing, good thing. You know, as much as I don't trust Farage, I think reform has been a hugely positive movement, and I do hope they continue to be a wedge at the moment. But they're not going to be the thing that cracks the nut. That's going to be Homeland Party.
Well, I think that wraps it up pretty perfectly, Kenny. And I'll leave you to, I'm sure, your celebrations tonight. And I'm sure you've got a lot of people to phone up and congratulate for all the hard work. That I mean, I just sort of to cement it. It's no, this isn't just off the back of Rupert Lowe that you're seeing the growth. It's just one facet of it, but it's all the work that you've done prior to this, and it's the stuff that I've seen as well. You know, clearing the graffiti off the rocks. You know, cleaning up the communities, going out and planting trees. Just it seems very simple, but at the same time, this is what people want to see, and it's not even. It's so very appreciated. You know what I mean? See, when people are out walking on these hills, when they're out and they see these trees planted, it's so appreciated. You know, so I just again. thanks for coming on at such short notice. You've been fantastic. It was good to have Alistair in as well. I didn't even know that you had a sort of a previous friendship. Or still a friendship, and you've known each other a long time. I didn't even know that, but it was good to see. And it shows you that all the good people in politics, they stay involved, because it's one of these things. It's a lifelong thing where, and I can see it happening to myself. So every time that I do these things, I do my activism here, there, and then you think, I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. I'm going to sit back, but then it just keeps pulling you back in, Kenny. You can't escape it. It's like, well, it feels like I'm sure you'll have the same sort of thing as me, but it's your spiritual mission to get out there and make a change. Nobody's going to make that change for you. You have to do it yourself. And I'm so glad that I've had you on the show tonight, and well, hopefully we can have you in the future. I think Steve Laws has agreed to come on the show in the next week or so. So we'll keep the momentum going for you guys in Homeland. I want to see you do well. At the same time, I do want Reform to do well as well, but we need to see the window shift towards the right wing of politics, and it's inevitable that this is going to happen.
I also believe that it's inevitable that we'll one day see you as a Homeland Party officer or community lead, because the passion absolutely oozes out of you.
Mm-hmm.
You're very courageous. You fit the Homelander bill to a T. So I'm not going to rest until you're one of us, a fellow Homelander, and because I believe you can do. You're already doing amazing things. Alistair mentioned it earlier, and he sees it. The work you do in Scotland is incredible. You're probably the most effective community activist that I've seen outside our team in Scotland.
I appreciate the kind words. Honestly, I do.
Union would be great.
Again, it's like you can't but do these things, Kenny. It's a pull. I can't stop it. And once you get the ball rolling, and I'm sure you'll get. The thing is, see, one of my finest moments, I suppose, was calling Hamza Yusuf out. For his anti-white rhetoric, and. I'm sat there in the crowd, and he's just, he's talking white this, white that, and I just couldn't help myself. I went there to confront him, but it did took a tiny bit of courage. But what I wanted to do was encourage other people to stand up and hold their politicians to account. That was the point. Was to say no, it doesn't need to be me all the time. And in the speeches I make. Most of the time I'm ending up with, I finish it up with sort of an inspirational thing where, and one of the most sort of the best thing that was said to me where I've got sort of mentors in my life was, getting real respect and influence doesn't come from being a star, Kenny. Real respect and influence is in the creation of stars. That's where you get real respect and influence, when you're raising other people up and you're promoting them. So, just sort of as if you have that ethos through the Homeland Party, you'll go very, very far. And I can only really congratulate you first on the work that you've done, and I'll congratulate you on the work that you're going to do in the future, because I just know that you're not going to stop. So,
thank you very much, sir.
If you don't know Homeland, check them out. Kenny Smith, he spent a lot of time today and he's answered every question to his credit. He's not shied away for anything. And if I would encourage you to the Homeland website, where you can see all their beliefs. And just very briefly on the remigration conference that you've got lined up, what any details on that? Is there still tickets available?
Like membership numbers, they are running out fast. I believe there's something like possibly 50 tickets. If I could give me,
so they're going like hotcakes.
Yeah, and they will be gone before the end of this month. I'll drop the link into the chat, and if you could share that'd be lovely. It's going to be an amazing conference. We've also got the fantastic Rick Munn from Northern Ireland coming over to speak. He does the Locked and Loaded show. An incredibly passionate
I've been
guy.
I've been on his show a few times. Rick Munn's
Yeah,
fantastic.
he's amazing, and we've got the suave and stylish
Mhm.
Alec Cave speaking at the conference as well. There may be one other surprise package, but we'll see how it works. But it's going to be an incredible day, and you will see people who are confident and talking about remigration, the love of our people, and what it will mean at the end of the day. That's for me. The thing about remigration, it's to envisage what kind of country it'll be like once we implement that. I'm a lot older than you, Niall. I remember growing up in a rural community that was I had the most idyllic childhood. It was just incredible. And it saddens me that there's people in the country today that will never, or who have never experienced that. And I want to make sure that happens for them and their children in future.
Well, let me get that banner in so you can see this. So first of all, this is a link to get tickets to the Remigration Conference, https://homelandparty.org and Remigration Conference. Get there quick, because I'm sure they'll be running out of tickets very shortly. What's the capacity on that? Sorry if you don't mind me asking.
200 is the capacity. So
okay,
yeah,
so you're getting up close and intimate, personal sort of speeches by these profound minds right across the world, and I'm sure it'll be a fantastic day. So we'll finish on a wee bit of the optimist. If only you knew how good things are going to be. We'll end on that, and of course we can't finish a show without our outro music. So thanks very much for watching, everyone. It's been a spirited Niall Fraser show. It's probably the best numbers we've done on a Friday night. Wednesday nights are generally the numbers. But if you can stay for the outro music, because you'll absolutely love it, ladies and gentlemen. So thanks for everyone for joining in. Thank you, firstly, for Kenny and Alistair for being here on such short notice. And once again, do check out the Homeland Party. I think they're a big force to be reckoned with, especially in the future here in Britain. But there's nothing else left to say other than have a great day, have a great evening, and I hope your weekend is fantastic. So enjoy the outro music, everyone. Enjoy.